Now 5:30, and I will call the December 16th, 2025 City Council meeting to order. Please call roll.
Richardson.
Here.
Garza.
Here.
Fast.
Here.
Magers.
Here.
Goss.
Here.
Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I have Glenn Costner from the First Church of God here for the prayer.
Shall we pray? Our gracious God and Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening thanking you for each one of these people who have served on this council and continue to serve. Thank you, Lord, for all they've done. Lord, we pray that you'll be with them tonight as they meet, that they will seek wisdom from you and not just from themselves, and that they will consider everything before them with that wisdom. Lord, may they consider every resident of the city of Hutchinson and every business as well, as these things will affect many. Lord, just guard their hearts and the discussions they have. May they be open to true discussion. Lord, we lift them up in your hands. In the name of Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Next item.
Item number 4 is proclamations, and we have none, but we have Santa.
Ho, ho, ho. Chris Kringle, South Pole. Here to spread a little joy, cheer the council. I hear you've all been good employees for the city of Hutch.
We're volunteers.
Thank you. I'm sorry. But you take it seriously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Santa. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And to all, a good night.
Thank you, Santa. Thank you, Santa.
Next item, please.
Item number 5, executive session.
I move to recess into executive session pursuant to the personnel matters of non-elected personnel exception KSA 754319B1 in order to discuss city manager matters. The open meeting to resume in city council chambers at 5:38 p.m.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Yeah, sorry.
Richardson.
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Fast.
Yes.
Magers.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
So where do your tax dollars really go? Let's break it down with a single dollar. First, here's the truth. The city of Hutchinson only gets about 25 cents of every property tax dollar you pay. Sales tax? We get just 1.4% of purchases made in the city. So no, we're not swimming in cash. But here's how we stretch every dollar we do get. 44 cents goes to public safety, police, fire, and emergency services. That's nearly half of your dollar keeping Hutch safe. 15 cents for parks and facilities, mowed grass, sports facilities, pools and splash pads, walking trails, and clean public restrooms. 15 cents covers capital improvements and bond payments, roads, major repairs, and the debt we've taken on to build what matters. 10 cents goes to public works and engineering, water, sewer, storm drains, and street maintenance. 9 cents runs the core admin team, IT, finance, HR, the city attorney, keeping everything moving behind the scenes. 5 cents for economic development, bringing new jobs and opportunities. 1.5 cents for code enforcement, making sure buildings are safe. 1 cent for planning and development, guiding future growth. And just 1/10 of a cent for arts and culture. Yep, 1/10. We listen to residents, we crunch the numbers, and we focus on real needs, not fluff. We treat every cent like it counts, because it does. That's the City of Hutch budget in action. Smart, transparent, focused on what matters.
Next item, please.
Item number 6, consent agenda.
Item number 6 is the petition, remonstrances, and oral
What?
communications.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Petitions, remonstrances, and oral communications from the audience.
Is there anybody here to speak in public comment? Please come to the podium and state your name.
I'm Mark Buckley, and this is Geneva Nisley.
Give me
We'll-
one second. I'm just going to
sorry,
read a
Stacy.
quick statement. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes and to items not on the agenda. Audience members may address items on the agenda when the item is discussed by City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. I'm Mark Buckley, and this is Geneva Nisley. We own the Toy Depot at 127 South Main. I'm here a little different today. I want to thank the council, and I wanted to make sure John hadn't left yet, because I love B Street. Thank you, thank you, thank you for B Street. It is wonderful. And thank you for the park. The homeless left about 2 hours after you put the sign up, but we have not seen one in the last 3.5 months. So I want to just thank you for what you did for us. And as Forrest Gump says, life is a box of chocolates, and Geneva has a present for each one of you. We want to thank you from Toy Depot and from our neighborhood for what you did, because I know you get paid absolutely nothing.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
someone gets a little muddy, but you know, we have one for everyone, including Justin. We don't want to leave you out, but I just want to say B Street's so wonderful, and the park is so nice to not have the people there, and it's helped our business, and we just saw an instant change in business once they left. It helped us quite a bit. So again, thank you very much. I want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. John will miss you, but we'll see you around. See you, friend. Thank you.
And thank you. Just To Mark, congratulations on winning the Best Window Contest again this year.
Yes, thank you. There wasn't one, so I got it by default.
Reigning champ. Is there anyone else here to speak in public comment? Seeing none, we will move on to the next item. Please call the next item.
Item 7, consent agenda.
Any questions or remarks from council?
No.
I would move to approve the consent agenda and authorize the mayor to sign.
A second.
Richardson?
I'm going to abstain.
I'm sorry.
I'll abstain.
Garza?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Magers?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes. And before we move on, John, do you want to explain your abstention? You're not
My
required
name's
to.
on here to be listed on the Building Trades Board, and I thought that it just didn't look good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item, please.
Item number 8, ordinances and resolutions. A, consider an ordinance submitting proposition of 3/4 general retailer sales tax.
Angela Richard, Director of Finance. I think IT's getting the PowerPoint ready. Okay, and you'll notice this says budget discussion because we are taking you back to when we prepared the 2026 budget discussion, when we first discussed the idea of an additional sales tax. So, you know it was a tough year. We ended up cutting many park projects or postponing those. We ended up reducing traffic signal improvements, arterial streets, many miscellaneous contractual items, including engineering fees, and we froze a position to get to the proposed budget. And then from there, we learned that our medical costs were going to stay the same. And then we did some reprioritizing and some rearranging with staff and moved some of the general fund levy maintenance to the stormwater fees, utility fee fund. It did qualify to be moved there, so we did that to relieve the general fund. After all of those cuts, we still needed to increase the mill levy 1.7 mills. And this slide shows what the impact of that was to a $100,000 home. It was $19.55 a year. $400,000 home, it'd be $78.20, and a $1 million commercial would be $425. So this was all needed because of the inflation we experienced, because we're running fully staffed at levels we have not seen in a very long time. I believe Chief Burley said that he's fully staffed for the first time in 25 years. So what we're experiencing now is the true cost of being fully staffed and running as we had budgeted. And so that has been putting pressure on the general fund. And also the general fund, almost 70% of that is made up of salaries. So we were trying to do this without reducing any headcount and still be able to provide wage adjustments. So as a reminder, our mill levy is 42.095, and there's a list of others that are comparable in the neighborhood. We're still on the lower end and still comparable to our peer cities. I did want to point out the total cost of lowering our mill levy over the years. So we started out at 44.492, and then we've been reducing it every year until 2026, where we went back up to 42.092. By reducing that mill levy, we essentially decreased our revenue a potential of $7.4 million. I wanted to show the cost of doing that. After all that, the ending 2025 projected balance will be about 4.1 million. We may end up closer to 5 million. And then for 2026, the ending general fund balance would be 1.3 million. As a reminder, the GFOA and many other sources state that we should have approximately 7 million in our general fund for emergencies. So we need to work on building back up that reserve. Here's a graph of where we started out with our expenses and our revenue. All those factors I just discussed led up to this, where our expenditures in the green line are exceeding our revenues now. We were able to make those lines go a little bit closer with all the budget cuts that we did. So, realizing that we can't maintain this level of expenditures and level of revenues, the idea was proposed that we propose a 3/4 cent sales tax initiative. This would go towards funding streets, parks and recreation, and stormwater improvements. If this is passed, we would then eliminate the stormwater fee from utility bills. There are some ground rules for sales taxes, and there's a procedure for it. So we would pass an ordinance calling for the election. We would then notify the county, and then the county would publish the notice of election. And sales tax only starts at the beginning of a quarter. So what does this look like? Well, first we have to decide whether this is a reoccurring or limited term, if it's specific use or general use. We would have to approve having this on the ballot by January 3rd and notify the county by January 3rd. The election then could be in March of 2026. It would go into effect October 1st at the beginning of a quarter, but we wouldn't actually see the collections until December 2026. Sales tax is approximately 2 months behind when it was actually collected by the businesses. And then after we start collecting that, we would vacate or expire the stormwater fee.
And Angela, if I could cut
Yeah.
in here real quick. So council, if you recall, during the budget sessions that we had, I did advise at that time to use a limited term, so it'd be a 10-year term, and have it be general use. So that is the default language that is provided in the agenda packet, is the general use language itself.
So what does this look like if we pass a 3/4 cent sales tax? As you can see then, our green expenditure line item is going below our revenues. So those lines are very close together, which indicates that we're not asking for over what we think we need to restore this structural imbalance. If we don't pass the sales tax, if it doesn't get passed, then we would need to look at reducing our expenditures significantly. We had about a $3 million gap between revenues and expenditures. We would need to make up for that. That is going to mean significant service cuts. And that could mean anything from reducing our level of maintenance on streets. It could mean less fire employees, less police. We're going to have to figure that out. So we're going to see service level cuts somewhere in order to make this balance if we don't pass the sales tax. So look at our peer cities. You can see right now we're at 8.25. Salina's between 9.25 and 11.5. Garden City 8.95 and 10.95. Dodge City 9 to 11. Right now, only half of our approximately half of our quarter-cent sales tax goes to street maintenance. If you look at the other cities, you'll notice between 0.5% and 0.75% go to streets in those cities. So this is just another look at how that's going to affect our ending fund balance, our projections over time. So we're not trying to get rich or add additional service with this. We're just trying to maintain. So what if we did a 1% sales tax? You would see here that the revenues would be significantly over our expenditures. So that's why we're not proposing a 1% sales tax. We want to stick to what we need. So are there any questions?
Who wants to start?
Oh, you said, what was that statement you said? Say it again. Go
Wait,
ahead.
what's that?
What you just said.
So the previous slide was breaking down like how you can define a sales tax.
Mm-hmm.
And you could either have it be permanent, or limited,
Yes.
or specific use, or general use.
And you was, in a way, you were saying it's going to be to specific use.
Correct.
Is that right?
And, well, it would be general use, but a best practice is to either pass like a resolution or an ordinance that further defines what that money would go towards.
So general use, in my perspective, is on streets and stuff like that. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay.
So when we were looking at trying to provide relief to the general fund, there was a few ways that we could do that. You could do it through cuts, like to projects or something like that. But the other thing was also shifting, say, the stormwater money, like the employees were being paid out of the general fund. But then we looked at it and said, hey, well, actually, you could pay these out of the stormwater utility fee. So then we made that shift to alleviate the burden on the general fund. That did help, but not enough, because we still have that $3 million difference. And that's where Angela, once we all kind of realized that, does that mean personnel at that point? And none of us want to ever propose that.
Okay.
And so, because we are in dire straits, that's where we're at. And so the idea of doing the limited term, in principle, is so you can kind of prove yourself. And then if the voters kind of like what they saw, then you can propose it back to be a permanent. And so a lot of the operations from parks, and parks is inclusive of our facilities, animal shelter, the zoo, a lot of the heavier street maintenance work that we do, and then obviously stormwater with the FEMA floodplain map that we have now. We need more money, and that's something that does impact anyone that lives here. And so the issue with the stormwater utility fee, one, it's not enough, but then also takes a while to build it up. And so as we were exploring different projects that we could use the stormwater utility fee money on, so on one analysis, you can throw everything at Cow Creek, and you almost could exhaust all of the resources on just one project alone. Or it's the State Fair Detention Basin and a portion of Cow Creek. Well, then you're still wiping the slate clean. Or you increase the revenue somehow. And since I've been here, it's been a huge push to get rid of the stormwater utility fee. I can understand that. But we still need more money from somewhere. And so anyway, we're optimistic that if this were to pass, that we could really make headway on the FEMA issues.
Okay, thank you.
On the stormwater utility fee, there are reductions if retention, detention aspects are designed into a property currently.
Yeah.
Are we going to, if we're getting rid of the stormwater utility fee and we're going to pay for stormwater maintenance through a sales tax initiative, what is motivating developers, contractors to try to hold on to that stormwater on their properties? What motivation would they have to do that? Because it does benefit our community to not put that burden, more burden for the stormwater drainage. Is that something that we're going to look at as trying to find a way to encourage developers to retain water on their lots?
That's general good design practice. I know that depending on the size of the project, they have to do a SWIP as well to determine where surface water runoff is going to go.
But we were designing that into new developments to try to incentivize them to keep their stormwater fees down, to try to hold that stormwater on their lot longer.
Right.
And if we're taking that stormwater, I'm just this is something to address, right? That we want to keep encouraging new development to try to mitigate that stormwater burden on our system. If we're already facing other stormwater flooding concerns.
Yep.
Okay.
And because it puts the ball in their court and makes them do the work. Whereas if they don't do the work and they build whatever, it falls on the city and the residents to pick up the slack.
I have another question, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have another question on the, what's the benefit of timing on the special election and what's the cost?
Let me try. Paul Brown, City Attorney. I don't know that there's a benefit on the cost. The idea of putting it on the March ballot is that when you're preparing the 2027 budget, you'll know whether or not you have a sales tax to work with.
Okay. Do we have an idea of what the cost is of running
Yeah.
that election?
About 43,000.
And to further comment on the stormwater utility fee, everybody that has a water bill or owns property without water service pays that fee to the city. That will all go away, correct?
Yeah, that would go away once we start collecting the sales tax revenue.
And generally speaking, on an average water bill, it's about $80 a year that would go away. Correct?
Is that,
It's $475 a month.
It's like $57 a year for residents.
Yeah. Okay.
So, John, to speak to the cost that you asked, the cost of a special election, what number did you say?
I'm sorry?
Did you say 40,000?
43,000.
The email you sent me earlier today says 27,040.
In the email from Jenna Fager, because.
Oh, and then add in the 17.
Yeah, there's 17,000
Okay.
added because the polling
That's right,
place
that's
was
right.
going to be in a different location, and you have to notify everyone of the change in
With the
polling
postcard.
places, and that alone is 17,000. Because they do it at the fairgrounds on March 3rd, that facility is not available.
Not that this is, I'm going to bounce back to the stormwater thing while I'm thinking about it. Not that this is good or bad, but one of the attributes that was pushed when the stormwater fee was put in place was that it's a burden based on, it's a cost based on the lot, not based on being taxed. It's a fee, not a tax. Whereas on the sales tax aspect, it's being funded by sales taxes. So properties that are sales tax exempt or don't spend money on sales tax, or, they might be a burden to our stormwater system, but they're not sharing in the support of it. That was one thing that was when the fee was put in place, that was one thing that was discussed, is making it a fee and not a tax for that reason.
and I would say too, council, if you recall, with the stormwater utility fee, that if you cut the road, you can use the fee to replace the pipe and not the road. So there are practical limitations with that, and also what staff have experienced in trying to administer the fee. Based on the ERU, say if someone added onto their house, most of the time we're probably not going back to factor that in. So we miss some, we catch others. So there are some limitations just from administratively trying to manage that, the utility fee itself. So having the,
So that's a poor example though, because residential isn't calculated off an ERU, it's a flat 475.
well, I'm just saying, but there have
So
been
that would be on a
limitations.
that
Correct.
would be on commercial only.
Maybe I just misspoke, but
You did. I just want that to be accurate for people at home who are following along. Sorry,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I didn't mean to jump your case on that. I just
no, it's
wanted it
fine.
to
I
be-
just, off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Are you done? I didn't know, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in front of you. So Enrico, you made a comment, well, I shouldn't make a comment, but how much do we pull in off the stormwater per year, the fee?
Angela, do you recall?
Gosh, I can't remember. I think it's just over 2 million.
And I think you were talking with the increased sales tax, that we could probably increase how much we bring in based off this, based off the sales tax, we'd bring in more off that versus stormwater anyway. And then you'd have outside entities helping to pay for all of that versus all of our residents.
Correct.
Okay.
So I had inquired if we would be able to limit the food or grocery sales tax the same way that this state is able to, and the answer is no. So if this moves forward, this would be a 0.75% increase on food as well, even though the state has moved to reduce that to 0 on that particular item. I have like 3 pages of notes here, but I don't know, they're like actual questions. I've just been doing a lot of reading on.
Yeah, go through them. I mean, we need to deliberate this.
Well, I mean, the question before us is truly a procedural question of, do we want to submit this to be an election or not? I mean, if that's the consideration, the question is, which election are we going to pick? I don't know that, I mean, my notes are more or less justifying whether or not whether or not the sales tax is a good thing or a bad thing, or.
Well, let's back up a minute. Let's talk about how we got here, even not just this past year, but the last few years. I mean, we had, in 22 to 23, we went revenue neutral, so we didn't raise the budget at all. And then for 23 to 24, we went revenue neutral, so we didn't raise the budget at all. And then for 25, we split the difference between raising the budget and so we brought and going mill levy neutral. So we brought the mill levy down a little bit, but we raised our budget a little bit, and now we're here. And so, all that being said, on top of a cumulative inflation of 25% over the last 5 years, we've been trying to cut where it's easier to cut, and now we're to a point where anything that we try to cut is going to be painful for groups of our community. Because, quite frankly, I mean, depending on where you live and what amenities you use, you might be fine if we get rid of other amenities that you don't use, but the other people might not feel the same.
Well, and not thinking of this from a what are we going to cut, but who's going to benefit if the sales tax is put in, who's going to not benefit. I think the who's going to benefit is a lot harder to define, because the people who would benefit it's anybody who would potentially be paying flood insurance. Because the majority of this money is going to go to remediating the floodplain map. Now, I guess the timing-wise, and understanding that our map isn't finalized for 2 years, and we don't get funds until, you said December of 26, if it passes in March. I mean, we're like. And all that March date really gets you is you get to budget for the next year of whether or not you're going to have those funds. But you don't have enough to actually do any projects before the map's going to be needing to be finalized. We're still going to have 8 detention basins done by then,
Well,
I believe.
What it's going to come down to is the 4 of you, plus Councilmember Truen, are going to have to decide if we decide to put it on the ballot for vote, then it could be a yes or no. If it's a no, it's the same situation as we don't put it on the ballot. Except, we spent $40-some thousand to put it on the ballot. And you guys are going to have to decide if you're going to raise the mill levy and raise everyone's property taxes to try to meet what we need to do, or you're going to say, we're not doing the floodplain work, we're not doing this, because we can't afford it. And that's going to be, I'm not trying to say but I don't have that burden. I'm trying to make sure we understand the consequences of the 3 options we have. And
Yeah.
they're not all fun.
No. I think for me, the people who stand to benefit the most are the ones who lack agency the most when it comes to voting in local elections, voting in special elections also. Also, most likely not registered to vote. And that's renters, and that's people who are below a certain income level. Those are the ones that if they have to pay flood insurance, whether that's through an increase in rent or on a mortgaged home or property. Those are the ones who are going to suffer the most. But then when you look at a sales tax, the sales tax is regressive. So it's going to have the biggest impact on people who are low income.
It also spreads the burden to people who don't necessarily live here. If it's purely property tax, it's only on the people that live here within the city limits. If it's sales tax, anything we can do to increase sales revenue for people that come into town lessens the burden on our own community for some of these amenities.
Right, but then to counter that argument, the property owners who own property in town but don't live in town, because you can't have a sales tax for some and a property tax increase for some, it's essentially all or nothing. So people who own property in town but don't live in town and, don't even shop here, which, there are a lot of businesses and companies and people who would fall into that. They would potentially see a property tax decrease because of the sales tax. And so again, the burden is falling to our residents. We're banking on this being carried by the tourism industry. And I pulled the numbers from the Cosmosphere vote and those projects and all of that. That was really helpful to read through. But there isn't an actual number to say because it's sales tax. You don't know who spent the money.
Correct.
You can tell me how many people walked through the Cosmosphere or Stratica or attended a football game. But
we're also trying to create more sales tax revenue drivers through like the Star Bond, which wouldn't go if there wasn't a justification for more sales tax revenue. That's a focus that we have, is try to generate more sales tax revenue.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things to consider too is your pull factor, and I don't know if Kathy's going to talk about that in the strategic plan, but they had looked at our pull factor, and I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but we're pulling in sales tax from surrounding communities like Nickerson, Buhler. So those people who are driving on your streets to go get groceries, they would be contributing towards the streets.
I know what we're deciding is if we're going to put it on a ballot, but I think it's important to discuss the consequences of however these decisions play out.
Well, I appreciate you mentioning the FEMA floodplain map and the increased cost in insurance premiums. We have to do that. We didn't ask for a new floodplain map that encompasses 30-40% more of our city. I would think it's very important for us to do all we can do to decrease the amount of people affected by that, because I don't think anybody has any idea what might be coming if we don't, because those insurance premiums are very expensive. I appreciate you bringing that part of it up. There's a lot to consider here, but it's always my default to try to let the people decide what they want, and I think the voters could tell us in this way. And there is value in discussing property, owners carrying the burden, or everybody that's coming to our city carrying the burden. It's just it's a shared thing to try to get our budget balanced. Again, the whole reason we're talking about this is expenses are this way, and we've held the line probably to our detriment on taxes. I like it or not, and I'll just say it, and I'll get criticized for saying it. We have been revenue neutral. We're still at a lesser mill levy than we were 5 years ago. And if you look at the charts on sales tax, we're under the other communities around in a sales tax. I get it every day that it's more expensive to live in Hutchinson than anywhere, and it's factually not true. And that bothers me.
How would this, I don't want to say strategically, but how would this align with the county's initiative?
It's separate.
It's separate. Have we
What
taken
are
it
they
to?
projecting, or what are they suggesting?
I'm not sure. I haven't been following it that tightly.
They're just doing a study to see what people what they could stomach on the county
Right.
side.
But we get, when the sales tax that goes to the county, a portion of that comes to Hutchinson, correct?
Correct.
Like 46% of it, or
Okay.
44?
Yeah, about 49, I believe.
And that
I mean, it
sales-
would stack.
It would
I mean,
stack.
Assuming that this goes, and then if there's were to go, you're probably closer to that 1% projection.
Just put us at 9.25. So with just what we're proposing, we'd be at 9% cumulative in the city of Hutchinson, other than CIDs.
Correct.
We were at 9.1 like 5 years ago.
Correct.
Okay.
You know, and I would say to add to this discussion, council, the other thing that we've been deliberating on in a lot of workshops and our budget tours, the condition of a lot of our most valuable assets. The wastewater treatment facility needs a lot of work. Some of that's just age and wear and tear, and then a lot of it also is neglect, just outright. And that's not something that you five were aware of at the time. I mean, you only know what you're being told. And so we have a lot of things where essentially we need more bonding capacity to fix a lot of this work, and the sales tax does provide relief that way. So anything we can shift away from the general fund provides more capacity to fix these other issues, because those have to be fixed. And so if there was a go, no-go for a sales tax, I mean, how are we going to fix those items too? I mean, theoretically, you could do a revenue bond, but the yield for those aren't great either. So you kind of incur more debt that way. But there's a lot of neglect around town that we need to fix, and some of them they have a high price tag.
Well, I'll take responsibility for some of that. I've been sitting up here 4 years holding the line on taxes, and again, to our detriment, here we're having this discussion. And, I realize I didn't know a lot about the wastewater treatment facility and some of those things, but was just making decisions based on what I was told.
Exactly, and that was a failure on staff. I mean, that, at least for some of these items, I think that was pretty clear. But, we have a reasonable path forward to fix these things. And, I am excited about what that can mean for the community and growth for the community, but some of this is growing pains.
Well, guys, people don't understand what responsibility us five have. Is either way, it's gonna be bad. If we pass this thing and say put it on the ballot, and the people say they don't see it our way or don't understand that we do the best we can for the responsibility for the people in this town, we don't get paid for it, and they don't realize how much responsibility we got. Who wants to raise taxes? I don't want no taxes raised, but I want this town to grow. Earlier this year, when Rico took us to the wastewater treatment plant, took us to the water plant, us five people are responsible for those plants. And we have to do what we have to do to keep those plants up, the sewer plant and the water plant. It's us five people that's responsible for the streets that everybody complains about. It's us five people that's responsible for a lot of stuff. So you have to understand, I'm talking to the public on TV and who's in here, we have a lot of responsibility. Just because we say we want more money doesn't mean that we're bad people. We're doing the best we can to take care of Hutchinson, Kansas. And I love Hutchinson, Kansas. I like being here. So it's come to a time, like Mr. Fast said, we hold the taxes to a limit as best we can. But now, on the other hand of it, is now we got good people in the office here. We got a great city manager. We have a great fire chief who's going to be leaving us soon. We got a great police chief. A lot of things has improved since we've been on the council. And I'm the oldest one here, not age-wise. I am age-wise too. But sitting on the council, and I've seen a lot of bad things. I worked for the city for 33 years. I've seen the city going downhill fast. Now we finally got five people on here, or people before them, that we finally have a good council that cares. But people have to understand, it's our responsibility, that whatever we do, it's our responsibility.
And I do want to qualify my statement on the failure of staff. Those staff aren't here anymore.
Yeah.
So the staff that we have been working very hard to give them a voice, put people in positions to fix the things that need to be fixed. So I don't want that to be a thing where people assume that they're still here.
The wastewater treatment plant has to get addressed.
Yes.
Yes.
It is not a want, it is a has to. And that is a huge chunk of the budget for '26.
Yes.
For me, that tour that we took, I don't remember when it was. Anyway, it was cold. That we took out there, and we were actually walked around and we were shown all the crumbling concrete and the rust and the water, that's the bad water that's infiltrated, and you can't, there's no potable water out there. And all of the mold in the offices and the lack of
You can't even drink the water.
emergency shower. Yeah, like I almost threw up like, I don't
Yeah.
know, a dozen times. I couldn't even go in some of the buildings.
Yeah.
And yet we require employees to work out there. That was the second tour that we took. Oh, I onboarded with a different gentleman. The first tour was just like a walk around and point like, hey, this thing does that, this thing does that. Okay, let's go to the fire department. So it was not shown to us until Dave came on, or right before Dave came on. I don't remember, but anyway, it was eye-opening to go through that second tour and be shown the lack of investment, the hazards, the extra costs that we're constantly putting in, the extra insurance costs, the extra equipment, the extra chemicals. Yeah. I understand it's a significant investment.
So we're in a bad position. Almost either way we go, it's gonna be almost that if we go for a tax, a 3/4 inch tax, and people think that, I hear that all the time, we're taxed too high. But the tax is what keeps this city going on. I'm sorry, tax, we have to have tax. Pays for the street, pays for the police, pays for the fire. The only one that don't pay is us, but, you know. But it's very, very important that we have a big job, and I'm gonna be real honest with you guys. We have to have the 3/4 inch tax. We have to get it to pass. We have to get it going so we get Hutchinson going again. You put your city council, what I mean is griping at us, yelling at us. I get a lot of it on the streets. We can't have taxes, and I can't explain to all the citizens we have to have the tax to keep the streets going. The gentleman here in the toy said how great the street was. Well, we appreciate that, but it took tax money to do that. So I just got to tell the citizens who's listening, we have to have the 3/4 inch tax. If we don't, then you're going to see then we're going to have another decision to make on how we're going to come up with the money. So we're at a position where we don't have a choice. We've held down taxes as long as we can, and we've done a good job on it. I worked here for 33 years, and this city is the best that it's ever been since I've been on with the city council and as an employee. And in fact, I am an employee, but we have to move on and we have to bite the bullet. And it's not a big, just 3/4 cents. I think Wichita's making a decision tonight too, aren't they? I think, if I remember right. I already got calls about that. They thought we were going to do that. It wasn't us. But in my personal opinion, is this we have to have it, or Hutchinson's going to go down. Hutchinson's going to go down. So I've been thinking about this and getting more white hairs all the time. So I've always been honest with the public, and I'll be honest with the public now. We have to have 3/4 inch cents to get this tax, to get this, get going on the city. There's no choice. And if we don't, it's going to be worse. If we don't pass this 3/4 inch cent tax, it's not going to be great. Be laying on police, fire. I don't know how we're going to do it. But you're just giving a more big burden on these unpaid people up here. More burden. And for that poor gentleman sitting there with his arm claw, you're gonna be up here, sir, so.
Paul, I have a question for you. The language, the proposed ballot question that's on page 90, it says for March 3rd, 2026. Are we, so in the previous Cosmosphere, Stratica, roads and property tax, the quarter-cent sales tax that passed in 2022, all of those included property tax relief. Are we able, we would just have to amend this here if we wanted to include that in this language, right?
Well, this is the general one.
Yeah.
We could say, go back and make that the 3 points that were listed.
Yeah.
But what
But
wasn't
we could
listed?
add a fourth of,
Yeah, what wasn't listed on that was property tax relief.
Isn't that kind of a given if we're paying for stuff that normally property tax would pay for through the sales tax? That it relieves the property tax burden because we're paying through sales tax?
not necessarily.
Okay.
So Angela, I have a question for you. So if we don't pass the sales tax, how much would we have to raise the mill to accommodate for that?
About 10 mils.
Okay, so yeah, that's the thing that I want the community to understand too, is if we don't go down this route with the sales tax, we're gonna probably have to raise the mills, which for me and taxpayers, I would think I would want more to have outside entities coming in to pay sales tax to help us cover that burden and putting more back onto our residents and property owners. So I just feel like it's the better use of a system for like the stormwater to go away because we're kind of tied to what we can use that for, to where we can have the sales tax in there, then we can use it and go, okay, we can repair everything from the top to the bottom. It just, to me, yeah, we don't want to raise taxes. And to me, in my mind, I don't really think we are. We're just changing how we're acquiring the funds so we can use it how we need to as a city, which, again, we're not up here to keep raising taxes. We're just trying to figure out a better way to make the city function better, fix our infrastructure, and to me, it makes more sense to go down this route. Now, I don't, like I brought up a few months ago, I was really against, a special election. $43,000, it's a lot to throw out there if it doesn't pass, which I still think it's a risk to take because I think in the end, I think we're going to benefit from that if we do pass it. So, just my 2 cents.
What's our total budget of the whole city?
The whole city. It varies so widely from year to year depending on the capital improvement projects we have. It could be anywhere from 80 million to 110 million total.
Yeah, so $43,000 is a rounding error of $100 million. It's not nothing, but it's.
I view that the same way, Stacy. It's such a small amount, and I know that the small amounts add up. But in the big scheme of things, it's not a lot.
And I guess that's why I was willing to push it off. I really was against the special election just because of that cost.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if we have a better chance to pass it for our community, to make it better for us, I just think that's a benefit to everyone.
Another question is, what's the benefit of knowing that before going into budget season for next year?
Knowing that is huge.
Huge.
I mean, we're obligated by the state to pass a budget that is, we've either said, well, I guess we would know either way that it would be not revenue neutral, so, I mean, but what would we do if we passed a budget and then you would just immediately start cutting, right? I don't know if that was a full question.
It'd be
but
a lot of cutting beforehand.
Yeah. Mid-July,
substantial.
we'll have to let the county know what our max mill levy is, so we would have to do a lot of cutting before mid-July if we were going to have the election or the vote in August or November. You'd still go through that exercise of cutting everything.
Is there a cost of putting it in the general election?
The costs for the August and November elections are borne by the county.
Okay.
I mean, for me, I think that like I said, on the procedural question, are we gonna put this out for a vote? Yes. The question timing is the big question. I mean, state law is obviously that we have to put it out for a vote. Or else it doesn't go anywhere.
Did you say the county takes that, when we put it in a general election, the county takes the burden of the cost of that, right?
August and November elections, the costs are borne by the county.
So if we would add this to that, then they would of course have more money, they'd have to put in more money, right, for the election, or no?
No, no cost.
Okay.
No, you don't have to spend that $43,000 for the special election. Problem is, you're gonna go through the whole budget season not knowing if you're gonna get that sales tax revenue.
Yeah, truthfully, I don't know if I would want that stress, and probably Angela either. Depending, I mean, if we go, yeah, if we were to go in March, and then if it fails, at least we know what we're looking at. And then at that point, I'd probably take the longest vacation of my life after the budget's done. So, yeah, we'll have a lot of work ahead of us one way or another.
So if we don't, if say we don't put that sales tax in the special election, would we have to, if we go past that window, would we have to raise the mill to help with our budget going into, to make up some of that, since we don't know?
Yeah, we would. I don't know by how much. It just.
But we'd
depends
have to
on-
just to.
Yeah, it'd be probably similar to what we just recently did, more cuts plus some marginal increase.
So it'd still be more beneficial just to get the sales tax on the special election, go that route.
Yeah.
Well, so I did the math, and I don't know, I feel like I'm giving both sides of the coin here. In order to make up the $4.75 that you would take off or save from your water bill, you would spend, Greg, I know you and I talked about this, and
I did the math. It's like $8,000.
$8,000 a year in taxable goods, right?
Right.
Yes, 7,600 in taxable goods,
And that's if you had a water bill and it was clean slated.
right?
So what do you need? Do you need a motion to see if we do spend the $43,000 on a special election, or put it, because we basically know we got to go to election somehow. So put it with the county, which won't cost us much, and extend it out, and all of us be like this gentleman, have no hair, or.
Not the first time I've heard that.
You know, or we spend the $43,000 and put that, get it closer so we know what's going on later on. So that's basically where we're at, right, Ms. Mayor? Right?
Yeah, I mean, I do want to open up for public comment before we have a motion. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak? Public comment. Can you please come to the podium and state your name? And there's a 5-minute timer on there. Joe, can you change slides so we can see the timer better? Thank you.
My name's William Colvin. I live at 1518 Brookwood Drive here in town. And if you probably remember me, I was here when we did the budget thing, tax thing a few months back. I appreciate all the information that was presented, and I kind of came down here with one thing on my mind, but I kind of maybe leaning the other way now and think maybe the increase in the sales tax isn't a bad idea, because it is shared by everybody. And that's one of my biggest complaints I have had with the property tax increase, is mine was way more than anybody else in my neighborhood. If you remember my comments from before, in the last 5 years, I hear you talk about 25% inflation rate. Well, my property valuation went up 39%, and therefore my taxes went up 39%. she's talking about how much it was going to cost per year for the mill levy increase for this year, but mine went up about 10 times as much as what she was showing on there because of my increase in valuation. But I really feel like, too, that it's kind of like the gasoline tax. Everybody that uses the road should have to pay for the upkeep of the road. And so why aren't the people that are using the streets in town and so forth, why aren't they helping pay for this instead of just all the property owners? I think the only way you're going to get the citizens to vote for this is you're going to have to show to them that the property taxes aren't going to increase like they have this last year. I can't keep going up with 39% increase in the last 5 years, or it was actually 11% just this last year. You're going to have to somehow show that this is going to be offset and that their property taxes aren't going to go up. This was posted on, I saw this meeting was posted on Hutch Post, Facebook, and most all the comments were very negative towards this sales tax increase. And I had the same comments. You can just ask my wife some of the things I said this morning. But I really think the only way you're going to get it to pass is to control the property tax increase. And I know, I saw something on the news that the state legislature was considering, but they don't have the votes, to put a cap on how much the increases can be as far as valuation. And that really upsets me. I think it needs to come back to the state level to put controls on this. Why should I be increased 11% and other people in my same neighborhood only get increased 3%? That's not fair. So, but the 3/4 cent sales tax maybe is equal and fair to everybody at that point. I had one other question. I hear you talking about the wastewater treatment plant. Is there any federal or state funding that's available to help out with that?
There's lots, but it has to be matched, generally speaking.
Okay.
Am I correct?
The best case is for it to be matched, but Evan Patterson.
Come on up here, please.
Evan Patterson, city engineer. We are taking advantage of a state program with low-interest loans for the set of work that we're going to be doing at the wastewater treatment plant the next year.
Okay.
So there are state programs. There are also federal programs for much larger projects that have been used. Wichita's new water treatment plant, for example, used the WIFIA program, which is for really big scale stuff. So there are all those, and we're taking advantage of them when we can.
Please don't go through all the hassles that they've gone through.
I would really like to avoid that.
Oh my gosh, I see that on the news and I'm going, oh, what's going on over there? The only other question I had was, I think when I talked at the county meeting, commission meeting, was I talked about, and I know there's some developments coming into town. I said, can we get this where the property tax is spread out over some more people? I know there's some developments coming into town that will help get more property tax when those houses get built. How close is that to coming to fruition? I know there's one over there off 11th and Hendricks, one up on Monroe, is that correct? Mm-hmm. The one out by Plum Creek School. How close is that coming to where that revenue can come in and help out with this situation as well?
So the Hayes Street project, which is like 11th and Hendricks, that's 8 homes in the first year. The 36th and Monroe is 12 homes in the first year. Is that right? Anybody over there? They didn't know they'd be put on the spot. It's something like 12 homes in the first year. And then if he sells those as quickly as he hopes, then he would do more as the developer has capacity. Plum Creek, I am not sure where they stand. The first phase is 36 homes.
Now, will those people pay property taxes on
Yes.
those, all those?
Yeah.
So those types of items
No,
will help
not
out.
right away. Remember, the RHIDs are in place, and that's where the property taxes
For
go.
2, are they all 3 RHIDs?
Yeah.
Could be, yes.
Okay.
So that's not an immediate.
They will be, yeah, if they are all, I thought that Monroe and Plum Creek were RHIDs, but, sorry, I don't have
Okay.
my notes.
All right, thank you for your time.
Mr. Colvin, was that your name, Mr. Colvin?
Yes.
I'm up here, sorry.
Yeah, oh.
The sound's coming from back there, but I'm right here at the microphone. So I wanted, on your property tax, one of the challenges we have is the city of Hutchinson could keep the tax burden exactly the same or lower it. That doesn't mean the other taxing entities are going to play the same game. Because your property tax, we're 25% of your total property tax bill. So if our other cohorts taxing entities change how much they tax, you may not see any benefit, any of the work we do to try to keep it the same or lower it, or whatever we do, could be buried in the whole congregate of taxing.
Right.
And that's a challenge we have.
Yeah, and I got, that's what that statement there tells me, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate your research on it, though.
Thank you.
And to speak to Mr. Coleman's point and the point Scott made right before he came up here, we really are looking at 10 mills plus flood insurance or sales tax, and the sales tax is the only one that we get to spread across visitors and our retail pull factor. And, yeah. Is there anybody else here to speak in public comment?
I do have one more point, at least something to keep on our radar. Because our fund balance is so low, and our target should be around that 7 million. This time last year, I think we got fortunate that our bond rating didn't go down. But part of the reason why it didn't go down is because we shared with them, here's our plan. So that I am a little worried that depending on how things shake out and depending on how we address the budget, I definitely want to keep the bond rating at least the same, and that it doesn't go down, because if it does go down, that just means our interest rates will be that much more expensive, so less projects that we can pull off, stuff like that. But just to keep on the back of our minds that our bond rating is somewhat in jeopardy depending on how things go.
The other thing about sales tax, I had someone ask me this the other day. We do collect sales tax on what people order online.
Yep.
It gets reported to the state, and we get our share of that. So we want people to shop local. That doesn't mean we're missing out on sales tax revenue when someone orders something online.
Right, so Kansas is a destination-based tax state. So whenever you order something online, or you pay based off of the address that you're delivering or using to.
But they no longer charge sales tax on freight.
I don't order anything by freight.
No,
so.
I used to pay sales tax on freight. That's a recent thing that changed.
Okay. I think that if anything, and maybe, I don't know that this is a argument for or against the sales tax, but I think that businesses would see a strong benefit as well, because not only are they no longer having the stormwater fee, but they're tax exempt for the most part on certain things, anything that they're selling. So
I'll just mention that I've talked to probably a dozen people, and I've talked to Mr. Colvin on his front porch, not about this issue, but about the property tax issue. And again, I haven't talked to him. I was surprised at what he had to say, but I kind of wasn't, because the people that I've talked to, when we have a conversation like this, they're like, oh, wow, well, that's really a pretty good idea. So I think there's a lot of people out there that maybe would understand if we can get the whole picture and understand that we're trying to spread this around to more folks, and that we're just trying to keep our city afloat. And it makes maybe a little more sense in property taxes.
Yeah, bringing that up, I talked to a couple people today, actually. And I think it is, if we go down the road of the special election, I think we need to make sure that we have that information out there, because the people I talked to had no idea that, well, you're just going to raise taxes. I'm like, no, this is how things are going to trade out to do that. And it's just making people aware of what is actually going to happen. We need to make sure of that too, because I know that's a huge thing where people just don't know. And so we need to make sure we publicize that and exactly what's going on, and so that they know how it's gonna work, so.
And we have absolutely no control over the floodplain map after a certain point.
And to John's point, we don't have control over property taxes other than our own as a city.
Angela, the stormwater fee currently has $11 million in it.
I do not remember. I don't have that with me right now. I'm sorry.
Okay. Hold on, I'm gonna pull up our emails from earlier. I have 90,000 tabs open. Regardless of the amount that's in there, what happens to the stormwater funds that are currently being held?
I would imagine we would still use them for stormwater purposes. I don't think that that could be repurposed in any way.
You would have to.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not, so, are we gonna change the scope of the projects, though? Because when it was created, we basically dedicated all of the money to Cow Creek, and we've still not completed anything really at Cow Creek. So.
Through no fault of our own.
I understand that. However, we've still not completed anything at Cow Creek. So are we gonna move the funds and use those to offset the detention basin ponds that we're currently working on? I know Evan is like chomping at the bit to get up here and talk.
Evan, if you're chomping at the bit, I mean, we still have a lot more to model.
Okay.
And we're trying to, what is the best bang for the buck for the money that we have? I mean, if we threw it all at Cow Creek, then we're just gonna have to wait for the sales tax money to come in to do those smaller projects. I mean, there's still a lot more to model before we can give you a more sophisticated answer.
So there's a chance that even, so hypothetically speaking, if this goes to vote in March of 2026, we start receiving funds in December of 2026, we're not delaying the stormwater projects until we build those funds up again, which was what we were doing with the stormwater fee in the first place. We're looking at a possible shift of those funds to cover the other projects.
Correct. I mean,
The
it also
FEMA
is.
projects, it seems like, would take priority over the other identified, the stormwater master plan from 2020.
Correct, and I think it's the volume of money that you can collect in a year that's a differentiator. So you wouldn't have to wait as long to accumulate the same amount. And so we're gonna have a bigger bang for our buck going forward if we have additional money through the sales tax.
Would we be bonding against our sales tax?
No, I mean, that just, the sales tax, or at least shifting the operations to the sales tax, we'd still be bonding against the general fund. And so you have more flexibility now.
Any additional questions or remarks from council? Are we happy with the general language as on, what did I say, page 90?
Yeah, page 90. Personally, I think we should mention what it's supposed to be for.
I agree.
I think it's gonna have a harder time at the ballot if it's vague on what the funds are being used for.
And it would be road construction, parks and recreation, and stormwater projects?
Yeah, it's operations and capital. So it could be to pay for the employees that are doing the work and also the equipment to get the work done as well.
Lesson learned from the stormwater fee on how the funds can be applied.
Yes.
So is the language, the sample motion that's given, what would need changed on it?
Paul?
Well, it depends on what you want it to say. Be very careful about the language that you choose, though, because you don't want to make the general sales tax into a dedicated one.
Well, let's talk about the dedicated, because that's where we got in trouble, or I wouldn't say in trouble, but that's where we've been, we've been
Required to
caught
go with the
on the
stormwater
stormwater fee, because we've had situations where we've had stormwater projects that the stormwater fee can't pay for all of the costs of it, because some of it is tearing up a road and redoing the road, and you can't apply stormwater fee to that, so we have to pull money from other funds to do it. And that's been a real pain for budgeting and applying the stormwater repairs.
Well, can you provide us with the language?
Take a look at the ordinance.
Page 89?
The first.
88?
Yeah, it's page 88, I guess. And look at the second whereas paragraph. Are you thinking about that type of language?
I think having something like that on the ballot question would be important.
Yeah, because it mentions projects, operations. Yeah, I think that one would be.
And I try to make it fairly generic so that it's not bound to any one of those purposes, because you don't want that. That's not the purpose of this particular sales tax. It needs to be general so that the city has the flexibility to take those funds and address whatever problems we're having.
That would be the other operations of the city of Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Would park improvements be too narrow to include repairs? Because I know, like, for the street, it says street maintenance and repairs. Repairs is separate, which,
Well, improvements would be anything you do to make it better. And I know we're playing word semantics, and I know you just want to get it right, Mayor, and I agree with that, but.
How about this? How about you trust me to format the language to what you have proposed in the sample ballot? And because I'll take it, and in between on the ballot question where it says 3/4% general retailer sales tax, and there's a comma before you get in addition to the existing city retail sales taxes, and then I'll incorporate the language out of the second whereas, and if you want park improvements to be park maintenance and repairs, we can do that also.
so tonight we are just going to pass the ordinance and not establish the actual language of the ballot question.
Actually, you are, and I'm going to do what I just said.
Like, I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, are you going to give it to us?
Let me try and
right-
read it to you between two pages here. Shall the following be adopted? Shall the Hutchinson City Council be authorized to levy an additional 3/4% general retailer sales tax for the needs of the city, including stormwater modifications mandated by federal regulation, park maintenance and repairs, street maintenance and repairs, capital improvement plan projects, and other operations of the city of Hutchinson, in addition to the existing city retailer sales taxes, to be effective October 1, 2026, and expiring on September 30, 2036, and by allowing city usage of said tax for all needs of the municipality.
Thank you. So somebody needs to make a motion.
I'll move to do that in March.
For a March 3rd, 2026 election.
Yes.
I will second that.
Richardson,
Yes.
Garza,
Yes.
Bass,
Yes.
Magers.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Item number 8B, consider an ordinance authorizing issuance of taxable industrial revenue bonds, Series 2025, for the Gun Bros project.
Angela Richard, Director of Finance. In May 2024, the City Council passed a resolution determining advisability on issuing IRBs of $2,935,000 for the Gun Bros project by Saloon Investments LLC. At this time, they are ready to issue the IRB bonds, so the matter before you is whether to approve the ordinance authorizing issuance of the bonds. As a reminder, by issuing these bonds, the city does not incur any debt. We will not be responsible for paying any debt or any cost of issuance or any legal fees or any other costs associated with issuing the debt. Part of the agreement will be that the city will become the leaseholder and Saloon Investments will become the leasee of the property. This will allow them to apply for a 10-year property tax abatement. They have proposed a payment in lieu of tax agreement that is included in your packet. It is based on the value of the land itself for the next 10 years. Are there any questions?
This is a project that we started 18 months ago, is that correct?
Approximately, yeah.
And the building is near completion?
I believe so.
Do we know when they will open?
I have not heard a date yet.
Okay.
I think there's someone in the audience that can speak to that.
Yeah. Come on up there.
Would you like to come recording, please?
Sorry.
Devin Ganabin, I own Gun Bros with my brother. Yeah, so we plan to open, it was supposed to be November 1st, but things with construction have obviously continued to progress. But right now, pretty much everything cosmetic. We probably will open towards the latter half of January of 2026. So big things are happening. We've already hired 7 new employees. And I think with so much excitement being drummed up in the city, I get questions about it every single day. So I think it's going to be a huge win. It's going to be a huge success. And obviously we'll draw in a bunch of sales tax revenue too. So
That's a good thing to put in there.
So, yeah, tail end of January is when we're planning to open, but we're down there today and things are shaping up really good. So, yeah.
Thank you. Any remarks or questions from council? Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion. I move to approve an ordinance authorizing issuance of taxable industrial revenue bonds, Series 2025 Gun Bros project, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Richardson,
I'm going to abstain.
Garza,
Yes.
Bass,
Yes.
Magers.
Yes.
Goff.
Yes.
Item 8C, consider a resolution establishing rates and charges and franchise fees for collection and disposal of garbage and trash.
Angela Richard, Director of Finance. Before you is a resolution establishing the rates for refuse service. This is a resolution that we pass every year per our agreement with Stutzman's. We increase the contract rates 2% for the remainder of the contract. So a residential service cart will go from $11 to $11.22, commercial from $11.86 to $12.10. And then you'll see other charges for walk-in services. The additional recycling cart stays the same at $4. So staff recommends approving the resolution as presented. Are there any questions?
Do you know what page that starts on?
242.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this item? Any questions or remarks from council?
Nope.
So we entered the contract, when did we enter into the contract that has the annual increase built in?
We had an original contract and then we amended it to extend it. And at that point, they dropped the prices of the carts for residential and commercial. And I think that was back in 2019.
That was my guess also.
Because the
29.
contract expires in 2029, so I think it was
Yeah.
a 10-year contract.
And so in 19, they went down, but then we've gone up 2% each year since 19 per the contract. Okay. Thank you.
I don't have any questions.
Nope.
Looking for a motion.
I would move to approve a resolution establishing rates and charges and franchise fees for collection and disposal of garbage and trash and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second that.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Best?
Yes.
Magers?
Yes.
Goss?
No. We are going to take a 10-minute recess here, because I know we have some presentations. Is that okay? Everybody looked shocked. Okay, yeah, we'll take a 10-minute recess. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 8D, consider a resolution scheduling a public hearing for Star Bond project plan.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Dave Sotelo, Director of Strategic Growth. In front of you, you have a resolution calling for a public hearing to consider the adoption of the Hutchinson Star Bond project plan on January 20th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. Where we've been, at this point, Commerce has approved we received the approval of the Star Bond project plan on December 2nd of 2025. We've also, you established a Star Bond district on September 17th of 2024. So those are two steps that are completed. Now that we have Commerce's approval, then it can come in front of you, the council, to approve the project plan. Where we'll go from here, staff and the different developers are working on a development agreement that establishes how funds are distributed, the schedule of those funds being distributed, but that will come at a later point. All we're doing today is scheduling that public hearing for you to approve, to discuss the project plan and approve the project plan. And this allows the staff to distribute the information about that public hearing and make publication of it. I'm happy to answer any questions, but a lot of this will be discussed at that public hearing.
So the question before council is, do you want to hold a public hearing on January 20th at 5:30 about the Star Bond?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll move to approve alert.
Second.
I'm sorry, I could finish reading. I was going to see if maybe somebody wanted to speak. I'm out of turn.
Okay. Any remarks or questions from council?
I'm sorry.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this item? Looking for a motion.
I'll move to approve a resolution scheduling a public hearing for Star Bond project plan and authorize the mayor to sign. And that hearing will be when?
January 20th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m.
January 20th, 2026.
And I second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Magers?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 8E, consider resolution rescinding resolution number 2018 R17 and establishing permit fees as authorized in section 21-201 of chapter 21, building regulations of the City of Hutchinson City Code from and after January 1, 2026.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Jason Lady, building official. So tonight before you, we have building permits fees scheduled for 2026. And so the City Code authorizes the Building and Neighborhood Services Division to charge building permit fees based on section 21-201 of chapter 21 of the building regulations. While it's never been the goal to recoup the full cost of processing application, most building and inspection permit fees have been set to capture a significant portion of their associated costs. So costs associated with these permits include just the division operating cost, the fuel cost, vehicle maintenance cost, things of that nature. So basic operating cost of the division. The City of Hutchinson last updated its building permit fees in 2018. The basis for this review was to ensure that Hutchinson was competitive in its building permit fees with other comparable communities. The adoption of the presented resolution to the building permit fee structure will bring commercial fees in line with comparable communities. It'll restructure the residential fees based on size as opposed to the valuation of the project, and to lower the cost of residential permit fees to try to incentivize new housing construction. Updates to the city's Building and Neighborhood Services Division building permit fees with appropriate changes would take effect January 1st of 2026 with this resolution. So in our analysis, same as the planning division, we evaluated the competitiveness of cities existing with building permit fees. Staff conducted a survey of 12 benchmark cities across Kansas. That's in your staff report as to what those cities were. So Hutchinson current building permit fees in many cases were significantly higher than the average across Kansas. When we get into kind of that upper echelon of building permit fee costs, we were pretty comparable with the high end of Kansas, which when we're talking about those, Johnson County and that area over there, which are really the highest fees in Kansas. So the results indicated that Hutchinson's building permit, well, we were higher than the average comparable cost for the application types and inspection services. So the table on the staff report illustrates the low and high averages for several example permit categories within the Building and Neighborhood Services Division. Hutchinson's existing fees were included in the calculation, but under the proposed fee schedule, most fees fall below the statewide average identified in benchmarking survey, and a full cost comparison spreadsheet is available upon request. So you can see there in your staff report just kind of a comparison of, and we'll talk about those here in the slideshow as well, in the presentation that I have. So the proposed residential fee schedule, you can see up here, so less than 2,000 square feet would fall to a flat rate of $800. And on my next slide, I have some comparisons in the chart. So you can see it would go from 800 to 1,200, 1625, 2050, 2450, 2250, and so on until we get to that 10,000 square foot or more house with a flat rate fee of $7,400. So just to put that into perspective a little bit, so these are some comparisons that we did of residents that have been built in the community. I think we went back 5 years. We may have only went back 3, but I think we went back 5 on some of these to draw in some better numbers. So if you got a 1,300 square foot house, if you recall on that last chart, it was up to 2,000 square feet. So we can go halfway down this chart to that 1,800 square foot house. So anywhere from, $175,000 there all the way up to $275,000. So you could see that those permit fees costs that we took in for those residents were $1,493, $1,803, $1,768, $1,268, $1,518. And if you got that flat rate fee of $800, you can see the significant cost savings in the construction of that house, $693, $1,000. So anywhere from, $500 to $1,000. And when you have these cost savings, any little bit of cost savings you can get in the construction of the house helps to incentivize things. So then you have a 2,400 square foot house, 2,500 square foot house, 4,000 square foot house, and those were just things that were comparable within our community. We haven't had any real large construction of houses that would get into that upper echelon part of the chart. But we got this 4,000 square foot house, and at $84,000, when you have a $5,000 building permit fee almost at 4,593 there, and then you take that down to 2050, you lose $2,543 in the cost of a building permit fee, and that starts getting pretty significant when you're building a house of that nature. So the goal of this is to help incentivize residential construction in the community, and so
Jason, if I can add something real quick.
Yeah.
In council, if you recall, when we were doing our water rates, we also did propose to waive the tap fee on residential as well. So hopefully we'll, it can be that much more cheaper to build residential in Hutchinson.
On the second page of the staff report, the proposed fee schedule was reviewed by the Building Trades Board as well at their December 10th, 2025 meeting, and the Building Trades Board did recommend approval of the of what's before you. And we'll go over some of the other, and I'll stand for questions and go over some of the other proposed fees that are on there. But I want to go over a few more things real quick. So this is a little bit of a commercial comparison. There in the staff report it says commercial and other construction. And it goes from 500, 2,500, 50,000, 100,000, a million, 5 million, and 15 million. And the reason it does that is because, so one of the parts of the structure of the 2018 fees, when you got to 100,000, it was $893.55 for a $100,000 building permit fee. Well, when you get to 15 million, you take 15 million, you take away 100,000, you divide that by 1,000, and then you times that by $5. Once you got to 100,000, the chart was stuck at $5. And so you get to a $15 million project, the higher and higher and the higher you go, you're timesing everything by $5. So the more money you put into a project, and you're timesing it by that higher amount. With this, we've made it comparable with other jurisdictions, and what we've done as we've gone to those higher valuation projects, we've reduced that down. And in fact, I think when you're at that 5 million to 15 million, you're only paying like $1.94, I believe is what it is. I don't have it up on the chart, but you can see in these top 10 valuations that we've pulled over the last several years, you can see everything from 3 million up to 27 million. And you can see there in the assessed fee permits, over that first one of almost $3.5 million, you see that $17,000. The new fee structure would be $12,000. There is a 20% plan review fee that we're proposing, which is $2,418.86. So the total building permit fee would still come out less than with that 20% building or plan review fee at $14,500 with a cost difference of $2,555. You go up to our more significant project, you start getting that $5 million range. You can see there's a cost savings of about $5,464. You get in that $27 million range, but that's not really typical of the projects we get here in Hutchinson, but we do have one at this moment. So, so under our current fee structure, it was $137,934 building permit fee. So under the new fee structure, it'd be $54,300. You added a 20% on there for the plan review fee, $10,000, so it would have been $65,000. And that is really comparable with most jurisdictions across the state. We're a little bit on the lower end. But part of the reason for that is to really, from here on, annually evaluate this process and get a kind of a cost analysis of what it costs to operate the department, what we're taking in and building plan review fees, what we're willing to take as a percentage from the general fund, from other things like that, and really decide. It gives us better context of when we should lower building permit fees, when we should raise building permit fees. And so from here on out, we can have a good annual report of the department and the fees that are being taken in, and see where we really sit at for in building permit fees. And I think what this does right now is what is good for Hutchinson. I mean, we need to incentivize construction. And we need houses built, we need commercial projects, and then, like I said, we can really evaluate from here on out where we stand to decide when to raise building permit fees. And kind of what that goal was is we do that annual cost analysis of income, kind of an income to that debt ratio, is to bring that to city council on an annual basis and be able to say, here's our report, here's our recommendation. For this next budget year, we recommend not to raise building permit fees, or we recommend to raise building permit fees. That way you as a city council also know out ahead of time before we get to this point, you know exactly what we plan to do with the building permit fees from year to year before the budget process. So that's the last slide there. Pretty short slideshow presentation. Just wanted to show those differences that were significant in the residential application type and then the commercial or other than new. So those residential fees that you saw, I did want to mention that those are for new detached 1 and 2 family dwellings. So that's a new house, single family dwelling house. That's a new duplex. That's a new townhome. Anything that would fall under the International Residential Code. So that would be those types of projects there. When you get into commercial and anything residential addition, residential remodel, that would fall into that chart of based on the valuation and not based on the square footage. And then you can see we have other, on the attachment that I provided to you, there was some existing fees compared to proposed fees, so there was a list of fees there. And I'll stand for any questions if you have any questions on any of those.
No questions, but a comment. My mind always works with this benchmarking. I appreciate the work that was put into that, and it shows how we compare, and that's part of weighs heavily when I make a decision up here, is how are we compare? How do we compare to other cities? I've already mentioned that earlier tonight with sales tax and mill levy. So, thank you.
And that was part of the reason for lowering fees in some areas as much as we did. Not only to incentivize, but also to make that cost analysis from year to year based on Hutchinson, not based on other comparable cities. Because now that we know what the comparable city is across Kansas, then we got to think about what is it for our community, you know? What's that median income here in Hutchinson, Kansas, as opposed to Wichita or you know, some of the other communities, Topeka and Manhattan, Salina, Olathe, of you know, that median income for our area. So that's what we wanted to look at kind of across the board too, and see what was best for Hutch as well.
Any additional remarks or questions from council?
I got real quick, one question to ask you, real quick. This might be a stupid question, but hey, the building permit fees pay for the inspectors to go out to it pays for their time. Is that why we do the building I don't know. Tell me about what's it pay for?
I mean, building permit fees cover the cost of the building safety division, building and neighborhood services division. So I mean, those include, even though a lot of what goes into it comes out of the general fund and everything when we talk about salaries and everything, but all this money goes back into the general fund as well when somebody pays a building permit fee. And so, you know, that money goes towards salary, it goes towards our division budget, it goes towards the cost of maintenance on our vehicles, cost of buying new vehicles when they're needed, fuel, all those things. So, you know, really, this isn't a community cost and the taxpayers. It's really you know, a burden that's typically put on developers because this is a cost that they're coming into the community, they're building something, and they have to pay for the cost of this division. And that's why we want to make that annual comparison of where we're at in relation to the cost of what we're bringing in as opposed to what we're spending.
I don't think people understand, because I've been in here, I work for the city, and I've seen it, how much time your inspectors do on reviewing the plans, and yeah, their time, they're really busy on a building when they inspect it and reviewing the plans and stuff. So I just wanted to make sure the citizens know what that building permit fee goes to. I didn't understand it. I understand it a little bit better now. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lady, what is a courtesy inspection?
There's a couple things there that so courtesy inspection is really, we get a call, we do a courtesy inspections for Evergy's And say someone is been without power for a certain amount of time, Evergy, before they'll connect that back up. Our inspectors have to go out there. So instead of making that a higher cost of fee, we've tried to reduce that fee because really that burden goes back on the homeowner a lot of the times to pay that fee. So, but Evergy, before they hook things up, they'll want us to go out and ensure that it's safe before they hook it up.
So Evergy bills the homeowner, like puts it on their next utility bill?
So the homeowner really has to just call in.
Oh, okay.
And say that, hey, we need this courtesy inspection because Evergy won't come back out and hook up our power. And then they pay that fee up front.
Okay.
And then we go out and do the inspection. But again, that's kind of a lower cost fee because it's putting the burden on a homeowner who needs power. And instead of charging that fee like we do in other areas of $61, we're reducing that fee in that area for those considerations.
Okay. Thank you.
I do have a few comments about this. So I do want to share some success stories because I do think it's important. And I know that we've had the reputation even before I got here that we were out to ding people or out to get people. I don't think that's anything that we should shy away from because you always want to know where you came from. But there were several recent projects where they did sing praise for the building inspection staff. One was the Tropical Smoothie Cafe that Vice Mayor Meggers had shared. One recently, the Hilton Garden Inn. Raju, one of his opening statements was how easy it was to work with the inspection staff and how accommodating they were. And another one was the developer for the Oyo Hotel, the one that's getting refurbished. He was so appreciative of the customer service that he received that he surprised everyone at City Hall with lunch. Just bought everyone lunch. And so I think while we are looking and being mindful of what we're charging people, we're also very mindful of the customer service that they receive. So hopefully, as we get more projects under our belt, people realize we're not just out to ding people. I haven't seen that in my time here. I think a lot of that seems like it's pain from a decade plus ago. But, I mean, the attitude has changed. And so it is great that people have said that and bought staff surprise lunches. But anyway, I just wanted to share that.
I asked Raju 6 months ago that question. Hey, how was the city to work with? He's the developer of the Hilton Garden Inn. And he said, great, best city we've ever worked with. I said, okay, talk to me more. And he's like, I'm really not kidding. He's like, we call and they're out here. And he said, we have to wait days sometimes in other cities that we're developing in. So there are success stories out there, and I appreciate the work that's going on in the city to try to change that and to make us more welcoming to folks.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. I do want to make mention on, and just so folks understand too, on some of these miscellaneous permit fees. I mean, when you talk about a furnace and air conditioning, I mean, the average cost was $138 for a building permit fee. We're looking at reducing that down to $65 flat rate for a unit. So, I mean, cutting the cost in half. Water heater from $41.40 down to $35, and you know, there's just things that we can, when you look at a roof based on a 1,700 square foot roof and re-roofing, $176 permit fee down to $85. So we're really trying to reduce the cost, even not just for, you know, building new residential houses and incentivizing that construction, but also we see blight and deterioration and things that need to happen to our existing housing inventory. So we're trying to work with that level too and just make sure that we have the right costs for people to be able to do the work that they need to do to their house as well.
Can I go ahead and schedule a commercial temporary certificate of occupancy before the end of the year? Before the rate goes up? I'm kidding you. It's one of the few things I saw in here that went up a little bit.
We did have that discussion during the Building Trades Board, so that question was brought up. I think the Trades Board, I commend them. They did their due diligence running over this fee schedule, even though they don't approve this fee schedule to come to City Council. They do, I hold them in high regard, and I take these things to them because I don't necessarily need their approval on some of these things, but I want their recommendations on things, because they're the people that are out there doing the job as well and seeing these fees and working with the community and all those things. So their recommendation is the commercial TCO, we actually had at $250 and $500, and the Trades Board made some comments to those, and so I reduced them in between the Trades Board meeting and this meeting down to $100 and $250. There's also a same-day inspection, which came up probably the most contentious thing during the Building Trades Board meeting, but that was I'm trying to remember what it was off the top of my head. I think it was $61. And we reduced that down to $35 to kind of go in line with that courtesy inspection fee. So, and there's some more things coming, and there's some reasons for some of these fees. February 1st, we're going to a new permitting and licensing system. We hope February 1st, February 2nd, somewhere in there. So the beginning of February, where we should be rolling that thing out. And so there's reasons for some of these fees and the way things are going to be handled in the future. So there's more to come on some of those things. As far as financial considerations, the proposed fee adjustments, there's not going to create any significant changes in the overall revenues. It's going to create a little bit of a reduction. But going back and comparing this year, we didn't see much reduction in what we would have taken in over the adjustment of these fees. So it didn't make a significant difference in the impact to the division or to the city. With the strategic alignment, updating the Building and Neighborhood Services permit fees supports the city's strategic goals by promoting long-term financial stability, strengthening the delivery of high-quality development services, and ensuring that adequate resources are available to effectively implement the comprehensive plan. This update also positions the department to better support the community's priorities identified in the Reno County Housing Needs Assessment. So tonight's recommended action is it's recommended that the City Council accept and approve the resolution adopting the updated building permit fee schedule. And I'll stand for any further questions if you have them.
I don't have any questions.
No. I don't have any additional questions. Looking for a motion.
I would move to approve a resolution rescinding resolution number 2018 R17 and establishing permit fees as authorized in section 21-201 of chapter 21 building regulations of the City of Hutchinson City Code from and after January 1st, 2026, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Magers?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Item number 8F, consider a resolution approving the 2026 to 2028 strategic plan.
Dave Sotelo, Director of Strategic Growth. This is really exciting for me to have in front of you a resolution to approve the strategic plan for 2026-2028. This is work that has been talked about before I was in this role as a desire from the council and the directors and the different city managers we've had since. Why this is exciting for me is because even though we've done a lot of work to get to this point, it means that there's so much more work to do, and we're doing it in a strategic way, in a way that aligns our values, in a way that aligns our priorities. So it's pretty excited about that, to start that work with the different department heads and for all the organization. It also establishes a mission and some values, and making value-based decisions is really important for organizations, and hopefully that's the trajectory we're on. So we began the strategic planning process back in September of 2024. in a partnership with the PPMC out of Wichita State University. They conducted an organizational assessment to facilitate this 3-year plan. One of the cool parts of this process was that they reviewed 19 existing planning documents. One thing that we hear all the time is we have a bunch of plans and not a lot of action that comes from those plans. So we tasked the team with reviewing those 19 plans and coming up with priorities from those 19 plans. So a lot of this work has been from things like the Downtown Master Plan, the Pedestrian Master Plan, the Love Where You Live survey out of the Hutchinson Community Foundation, just a lot of look at different priorities, because we thought the community's pretty surveyed out at this point. So doing a process that reviews what they have told us this entire time, the themes usually were pretty similar. So I'm excited for you to hear the presentation from Kathy and her team and Sarah, and for the approval of this strategic plan, because that really means the work just is beginning now for these priorities that we're setting forward for the city. And we can track the progress we're making. We can grade ourselves on how we're doing on that progress. And so I won't say more, but I really appreciate the work from Wichita State, the department, and the trust of the council, different department heads and the trust of the council to begin this work.
Thank you, Dave. Kathy Sexton, Senior Management Consultant at the Public Policy Management Center at Wichita State University. So greetings from your friends, the Shockers at Wichita State. We were proud and happy to be a part of your planning process this past year. And I know the hour is late and you have lots more agenda items, so if it's okay with you, I will briefly go over this, giving you time for questions, comments, what about this, or comment on any section, and we can go into it more in detail if you'd like. I'm looking for a clicker. Keyboard, thank you. So first, let me say thank you to the public, the staff, the department heads, the council. Everybody had input into this. We did focus groups, interviews, an employee survey, lots of things. And a small group of staff with Councilmember Fast were also in the leadership team, which guided the process and gave us feedback, course corrections, that kind of thing. So it was definitely a group effort. And as Dave indicated, we ended up with a very short, clear mission statement that is to support our community with excellent public services. This says a lot. There's a lot in there. You are blessed with a lot of leaders in this community and organizations in this community that work on various issues. And with that kind of active, engaged community, the city can serve a support function to its communities and not have to lead on so many things like so many cities have to. Smaller communities, ones that are not as robust as yours is in terms of the engagement that folks show. So the city can be supportive, and you heard that and you've seen that all evening long in terms of infrastructure support and fees and what have you. So this I think mission statement says very well, and it took a lot of iterations to get to this, but it says very well to the employees as well as to the public. And as Dave mentioned, it's great to have a strategic plan so you know what your priorities are, and that is definitely the clear purpose of a plan. But the other purpose is communication, so that communicating with your public and people understanding what's going on is there's a lot in this document that can be used in that way. The goal or the mission of excellent public services, I think, also says we are proud people. We're going to do this right. We take pride as employees, and I think this mission statement is a good summation of the work, and will be a guiding light for the employees in doing their work. Also guiding them would be these 5 values, core values, nicely summarized in the Hutch name that we all like to use, but some powerful words here in terms of honor, unity, trust, collaboration, and heart for service. And as is common now in these days with values, a statement after each of those values that gets a little bit more as to what that is. The employees showed good feedback in the recent focus group on these values, as did the community. So I think there's a lot here. It's not the same old like integrity and honesty and right. So each one of these words is a little more modern word that means a lot to a lot of people. So again, I'm flipping through these pretty quick, but as you absorb them and have questions, do let me know. We have several strategic areas, and you all have the full report in your agenda packet, your very long agenda packet, by the way. That's a lot of pages. But very pleased to know that we can start out with taking care of what we have, right? Which is something the public expects the city to do. And I've been sitting listening to your first hour and a half of this meeting, and let me tell you what, you're obviously engaged in taking care of what we have, as you talked about your storm water issues and your floodplain issues and your wastewater treatment plant and streets and everything. So there's a lot. And on the plan in your document here, you've got a whole sheet then of what does this mean? What in this goal area would that do? And there's water, wastewater, all kinds of utility issues, infrastructure issues, local sales tax you dealt with tonight, maintenance of parks, et cetera. So lots in there. I won't go over it in detail due to time, but there was a lot on this one. In fact, a page and a half of different items on this one. So strategic objective number 2 is your funding models. Every community has a certain amount of things we do on our own with our own employees and a certain amount of things that we share. Well, we help with the county with this, or the school district helps us with that, or the rec commission, in your case, the state fair. You have a lot of and some of them are probably written down. I'm not familiar with all of them, but some of them are just long-standing agreements to do for each other. All good, all noble causes. But the question is it time to go ahead and analyze each and every one and see how costs have changed over the years, how needs have changed, how equity issues might be at issue. So this objective gets to that. Essentially, the strategies under this one are things like economic revenue expenditure forecasts. Do we know the numbers behind some of these partnerships and agreements? Data is helpful in decision making, and some of these are handshake deals from 30 years ago. So the idea of using that data then to make decisions by and determine if adjustments should or could be made to some of those funding models. The relationships are also listed under this as strategic issues that we have to, in all cases, look at more than just the numbers, right? You have to have data for decision making, but you also have to have relationships with community partners, and trusting relationships and productive relationships will go a long ways. And so all that said, that this is number 2 of 5 strategic directives laid out in this plan to work on for the next 3 years. The third one then is to do our part, do the city's part in implementing this new countywide economic development strategic plan that was recently performed and adopted. So defining what's the role of the chamber, what's the role of the county, what's the role of the city, et cetera, certainly is necessary. And the strategies under this one that have been identified as clearly the city's responsibility is all about your maintaining your airport assets and also enhancing and using the potential of your airport assets for economic development purposes that maybe have gone untapped to date, as well as community marketing and your commitment, your financial and other commitment to your community's quality of life assets. You certainly have several, Cosmosphere and others, for example, and taking a look at that. And then the economic development staffing, the vice president of economic development idea to say we need to put more actual people power behind this thing called economic development to get stuff done. And it takes staff, and it takes dedicated staff. So the fourth objective is investing in the gateways to the community as well as the neighborhoods south of 17th Street. So just trying to narrow down a little bit more on this one. We came up with 3 areas. One is navigating city codes and programs, making that easier for people to understand. That is a key thing for city, just to say, okay, here's what the state offers, here's what the city offers, here's the county, and getting someone who has that knowledge to help folks understand what all is available for them when it comes to development and investing in their property. And number 2 is preserving the neighborhoods. Huge piece, part of that's blight remediation, part of that is revitalization plans and efforts, especially for the Cary Park, South Main neighborhood. And then the third piece on this would be your downtown redevelopment, as well as focusing on density, which it is a necessary thing to have to focus on, and it is more economical going forward to focus on density issues. And the fifth one, last but not least, is the housing issue. We all know housing is at a crisis point all over our state and all over really the country, and honestly other countries as well. But in Hutch, we do need to focus on existing housing units. You can't build your way out of this. You got to take care of what you have on existing units. You got to definitely expand production of new housing units, as well as focusing on variety and accessibility and dealing with some renter occupied issues as well. So lots of issues under housing. It's one of those things you can't just do one thing and think you've addressed housing. Too bad. I wish it were that simple. It's kind of throw everything at it in the kitchen sink and hope you make progress, because that's what every community is figuring out is necessary these days to address this crisis. So Dave said some about it, and I won't belabor it, but the stakeholder engagement was excellent on this. Since you all had the workshop October 6th, which was great, we hashed through a lot of this. We have refined some of it. There is a document in your packet showing exactly what changed from that time. In case some of this doesn't look quite familiar, most of it is the same as from the workshop, but some of it was a little different. What we did from the workshop is we tweaked it more. Then we did more focus groups, an internal one and an external one. As you can see by this data, generally the focus groups liked what work you put into this and the staff put into this, but then they also had very specific recommendations, and that fueled some of those highlighted areas of changes since you last saw this. But generally speaking, the focus groups were positive. I think we were pleasantly, I'd say surprised, but we were pleased that both focus groups, internal and external, could relate. They had questions of understanding, but we worked through those, and then they felt good about the process as well as the outcomes. So, of course, next steps, where we go from here, even though I've alluded to some of the strategies in each of these 5 goal areas, under them will be action plans. And the staff has been working on, as you saw in the document in the agenda packet, a champion or someone to focus on each of these different areas. They will be leading the development of action plans, timelines, et cetera. And then what you'll have to decide on, and I'm sure everybody's been busy with lots of other projects, but the next steps are thinking about how frequently you all want briefed by the staff as to progress on each of these 5 strategic directives, and in what format. We have provided the staff with a couple different sort of Excel spreadsheets and how they can look to make it very user-friendly to show progress and to show, points of issue. Well, we can't make progress on this until we get money for that, or we're waiting on the grant that we applied for, and then we'll pick that one up, and this time we'll work on something else. So I always advise, quarterly is pretty good when it comes to reporting. Maybe you already have a system in mind, or maybe Enrico does, I don't know. But if you're not seeing updates on your strategic plan for until next December, ho, 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 that's too long. It's a 3-year plan. You need to be briefed way more often than that. So with that said, I would stand for questions or try to answer anything that we can. Hopefully this gives you an overview without getting into too much detail. I'm sure you all have looked at this, and like I said, a lot of it's familiar from your October workshop. We've enjoyed the project and stand ready to assist in any way we can going forward. Thank you.
I have a question, Kathy. So staff understands and essentially has like a user's manual of how to measure their own projects and what progress and success looks like, right?
A user's manual. I would call what we've developed is more of a spreadsheet.
Okay.
Yes, that says for each of these items developed, when, how, who, how much does it cost, the action planning. and then reporting on the spreadsheet, okay, that's done, check. Okay, this one's running a little behind, give me a little more time. You know, that type of thing. So as far as that goes, I think there's some direction there, and it's kind of the management from here on. If staff are assigned, that they've got to be given time and expectation that these strategic things will happen. You have a very practical list of things to do. Some of these are already in process. But it's good to put it all in one place and to be clear that the city cannot be all things to all people. I know you all get asked to do a million things, and you all have to make those tough decisions to say no sometimes, but you have this to rely on now, that you can look back at this and say, if we're going to get these things done in this 3-year time frame, because these are the most important, we have to say no to some things, so.
Well, I appreciate the work that's went into this plan, not only from you and your team, but from our staff and the council and the stakeholders who participated. I see pieces of the housing plan, the county strategic plan, the downtown master plan as well, all reflected in different parts. And I think this tells us who does what for the next 3 years and how we make progress on all of these. I do believe you've prioritized the objectives appropriately in the correct order, and like you said, these seem like common sense ways to go about making progress on these.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Mayor is probably remiss. I think I forgot to introduce my colleague here. Sorry about that, Sarah. Sarah Gooding is your project manager, and she did the heavy lifting on this project. And we're also proud of Sarah because she's leaving us at WSU because she's going to be a city administrator now, starting next month in the city of Towanda. So we're always proud when people can go on to the next level of service after their service at WSU. Thank you, Sarah.
Congrats.
Well, thank you all very much. Appreciate it. And we would appreciate it if you all would approve this document tonight, because your approval then will trigger the staff to start working on some of the next level of detail.
Thank you, Kathy.
Any additional remarks or questions from council?
No, I really appreciate how it come down, especially the statement, the mission statement. I think that came out really great. So, yeah, I'm really, I really liked it. So.
Is there any way we can look at the rubric too, or have it emailed out? Because I think that would be nice for council, not tonight necessarily, but perhaps the next meeting. We'll sign off on this tonight, and then at the January meeting, if the next mayor is so inclined, we could have the conversation of when to be presented to, like, is that on a timeline basis, or is that on a percentage of completion basis, or on a when funding hits type of thing, because that might be a different benchmark for different projects. And I think it will be important to look at them all individually and assess where progress should be reported.
Looking at the city manager for some guidance there, but generally I think we can share that obviously with you, the rubric. And I'm hearing you're asking for a discussion in January? Okay.
Yeah. That's fine with me. I mean, I definitely like the suggestion of quarterly, because it does kind of give you enough buffer time to make a reasonable dent in things. But yeah, I definitely open to the discussion.
It seems like some projects may be appropriate for quarterly reporting. I know when you have, like, anybody has a quarterly project report due, you end up doing it all the last month. Or trying to do it all the last month, so you have something to report on. And I think that some projects may lean toward a conversation or an update based on funding or seasonal or.
One of the things that, like, even with the zoo master plan, you've seen this a few times now at council. And we usually try to bring these things back at, like, reasonable milestones. I mean, so it's. I think what you're proposing is still in keeping with what we do.
Yeah.
So, it seems fine to me.
I might suggest two other things as well. You have to tailor this to your normal way of doing business, but one thing, there's 5 different areas. You could do quarter one, here's an update on this one, goal one, for example, because that's like 8 things underneath it, right? And so you don't have to review the whole plan every time you do an update. And the other thing I would say is you can look at the City of Mays's agenda packets. We did a plan like this with them last year. And when I looked at their packet recently, what they started doing is just any agenda item on the regular agenda that you have, if it's in the part of the strategic plan, they would say, goal 1, strategy 4 is this, and it reminds you, oh yeah, that's in the strategic plan. So you can kind of look at your own agenda and see, oh, of all the things on the agenda, 3 of them are strategic things we identified that need to get done in the next 3 years. So that can be kind of a really good way, I think, to remind people that, some things are routine business you have to do on your agenda, but some things are strategic and they're part of the plan.
And to that point, just a few months ago, we baked strategic alignment as part of all of our staff reports. So staff are expected to include a strategic alignment, if applicable, to the agenda. And so ideally, it will be connected to the strategic plan, but we're also asking staff to name which plan, if there are other plans that's referring to, that will baked into there. But we'll have a discussion with staff on maybe some of that, how often we want it to, our recommendation for updates to council, and then we'll bring that up to you on January 1st. The other things I wanted to mention, we are planning to publish this on the website. So the strategic plan, the staff survey, and the influencing factors report, those are all documents that at this point you've seen and they've been on the agenda. But we'll also include them on our website just in case folks are interested in visiting that. One conversation we've had as staff, and it was a priority for the city manager, that staff survey that guided a lot of this work, we are planning to keep that on a routine basis. So it might not be wise to do it every year because the data might not change as much, but we've had conversations with Wichita State to continue to do that, just to track how our staff is doing, what the progress we are making on that, and gauge our progress. And yeah, the last point, those strategic alignment portions of the STAR report, of the staff report, I think are very important, and just a key piece of the making sure that we're talking about the progress we're making on the plans we've set in front of us. That's been, if you look at the Love Where You Live survey, one of the things that folks have concerns on is there's a lot of plans and we're not really sure what the path for our future is. We're not really sure where we're going or where we're heading. Even though we have all sorts of plans, folks are just not connecting the dots. And so us making an intentional effort to mention that strategic alignment, I think, will be really important.
Well, I'll move to approve a resolution approving the 2026 to 28 strategic plan and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Best?
Yes.
Magers?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 9, new business. A, design services for Zoo Phase 1 Master Plan.
Thank you.
Good evening, Justin Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities. So speaking of plans, we are following through with the first phase of the zoo master plan. Before we get into the design services, I'm just going to have Nicole just give you a brief update of where we're at on current projects, as well as the phases within the master plan. And then towards the end of the presentation, we'll get to the design services for this first phase. So.
Good evening, Council. Nicole Mance, Zoo Director. I am here at a milestone to give you guys an update on where we are with the zoo master plan and our current projects. So a little bit of a walk down memory lane, if you will, but a timeline overview of where we've been. So in August of 2023, we started a full master plan update, including community engagement through online surveys and through our, we hosted an open house at the zoo, and then also through community engagement out in the community at Third Thursdays. So Through that, we got a lot of feedback on what we wanted to see, what folks here in the community wanted to see in our master plan. And so we brought that to you in July of last year, in 24. And then last year, you also, or I guess the beginning of this year, in January of this year, you allowed us the opportunity to go back and take a look at some of the areas that we might be able to create more opportunities for community engagement and, while keeping the zoo free, help us potentially drive some revenue. So that is something that the Friends of the Zoo has been heavily engaged in our board, and I'm going to talk about those here in just a second. So now we are to December of 25. In our master plan, we created a thematic-based set of focused areas. And so we did some phasing and timing, but really this color chart gives you an idea of how we're telling the story. So when we identified what it is we really want our zoo to be about and our mission, we really focused largely on North American animals. And the reason that we did that is fourfold. One, good animal welfare. So we're choosing animals that can be outside, except in maybe the most extreme temperatures for the most part. And that actually helps us with number 2, which is being financially responsible. So we are not building a giant desert dome. We're not building an aquarium. We're building facilities for animals that can live here naturally. And additionally, we are able to create an environment that is different than some of the other zoos that you see here. So we have 7 accredited AZA institutions in the state. Several of those are within an hour drive. We also have some non-accredited facilities in the area. And so we wanted to have a different experience than what you might find at those other facilities. And then finally, last but not least, is the fact that from an education and information standpoint and a conservation standpoint, using animals that are from North America, these animals can be affected by our daily activities, can be affected by the education that we create for our community. And these are animals that our guests are likely to see in their backyard and to make decisions on how to protect them. So, the first project that we've been working on, and we hope to have this up and running by our 40th anniversary in May on our current site, is the addition of a pavilion and pedal boats. And so these are the 4 pedal boats that our Friends of the Zoo board has chosen. And we have identified an event patio area that has a good-sized concession stand that they will also be running. So that large lagoon that we have out on the zoo grounds, you'll be able to come out and pick either a blue heron or a pelican or a flamingo or a dragon. And it will seat 4, so families can come out and have another opportunity to spend time in nature, to spend time with each other and have a fun activity on zoo grounds. The project that we're here to talk about tonight includes our phase 1 upgrades. And this came about from our update that we did this year on the zoo master plan. So here you'll see, right when you first come into the zoo, we will be adding or moving our sulcata tortoises up to the front gate, and we'll be including kangaroos into this habitat. And so this area will be an opportunity for guests to mingle among the tortoises, feed them lettuce, to meet and greet with the kangaroos, and it will also have a winter habitat so we can see them year-round, and they'll have plenty of space. Additionally, in this area, we will be making structural changes to the train loop. So the train loop is not changing its location, it is not changing its route. We will make some adjustments to the train station But really what we're trying to do is just create a reliable experience. So year round, as long as the weather permits, we would be able to run this train. And then out on the train loop would be a whole new experience. So our staff has been working hard out here already to create pollinator pathways in this area. It is one of the largest spaces that we have on zoo grounds. It already has native prairie grasses. And so planting pollinator plants out in this area is something that we've been doing for the last year or two. And in this space, we will actually be adding Mexican wolves and then peccaries or javelina. So both of those species, the Chacoan peccaries and the Mexican wolves, are endangered. And our goal here would be that we would be able to, in time, breed and have, especially for Mexican wolves, potentially wolves that are released back into the wild, which is pretty cool. In this area also, we will be planning a space to move our deer and pronghorn over. And that area, that's because in this area is the next phase. So this is a rendering that Tesserae did for us that is on the agricultural center. So this is the corner of Blanchard and Severance, and you can see here a little design in the bottom left-hand corner of the pedal boats. But this area includes not only agricultural animals, but also agricultural plots. And our vision with this space is that we've created a space where students who may not otherwise have the opportunity to learn to care for these animals, to learn the agricultural career, would be able to do that here at the zoo. And so we would be partnering with local 4-H, also with the Kansas State Extension Office, to create some programming around this space. So we could even do backyard chickens, a class on backyard chickens, if that's of interest to people. But this area is really all about community engagement and giving us the opportunity to show such an important heritage piece of our community.
Can I ask you a question about this one?
Yeah.
So currently, that like farmland at Blanchard and Severance, we already own all of that
Yes.
lot, right? Okay. So
We already own it, and it's in our perimeter.
Okay.
Yep, good question. We actually own all the way up to the train tracks.
Okay.
In that space. And then before I leave this rendering, in the top left-hand corner of this rendering, you'll see the beginning of our prairie area with a walk-through habitat that includes prairie dogs and other prairie birds, not other birds, prairie birds, and a view area, a viewing building that you could see up over the landscape, and to the left of that is a badger exhibit. So once the mini farm that's currently in the middle part of the zoo moves out to that ag center, we would be coming back in, and it gives us the opportunity to create this riparian story. So most of the animals that are in this space rely on water in some way, including the new highlight of an addition here would be bringing grizzly bears to the zoo. So they are the only true prairie bear. And so we would be positioned in a way to take that space that is currently where our mini farm is and turning that into a grizzly habitat. And then this is the slide that talks a little bit more about the prairie exhibit. And so using a large portion of that acreage that we have on the backside that's currently undeveloped would be creating this prairie space that's very similar to what you see at other facilities that is an African savanna. So instead of African animals, we would be looking at doing prairie space, having mixed species exhibits, bison, deer, elk, pronghorn, and being able to move them around the space. So great welfare for the animals, great for the guests because you never know where you're going to find those animals. So instead of knowing the foxes are here, this is there, this is where I find the badger, you're going to have to find, for the most part, and see where the animals are depending on the day. And then the last phase that we have identified is back out into that train loop space, but creating an oasis, if you will, for both animals and people, and creating some lodging opportunities where you can look out on those large herds and spend some time. Even though you're right here in Hutch, it will feel like you're in a prairie space, in nature, in the wild, and this would complete our conservation hub. Questions? Okay.
Actually, Nicole, could you
Yes.
touch a little on the engagement with the Friends of the Zoo and the work that they've been doing? I know they went to Emporia recently.
Yes,
I think
yes,
it's good to
thank
sprinkle
you.
in those feel-goods.
Yeah, so Friends of the Zoo is very engaged with this project. They are really excited about it from a growth opportunity for them. And we recently went to the Emporia Zoo. I wanted to go back to this slide. We recently went to the Emporia Zoo. We met with their zoo director and their capital campaign board chair to learn about running a capital campaign, what they put into it. It's a very comparable zoo. And to learn about how they have a concession stand, how they run it, how big it is, all of those things. So it can help prepare us for that next step and really, and them being able to support the zoo and driving these next few stages of our master plan through donations and revenue. Okay. Thank you.
Very cool.
So a few weeks ago, we did an RFP, so request for proposals for design services for the first phase. So the train loop that we talked about earlier. We received 4 proposals: Tesserae, WDM, LK Architects, and Davidson Architects and Engineers. Selection committee was Nicole, Scott Conkling from Friends of the Zoo. He's the board president. Nicole Martinez and myself. Some of the things we were looking at as we're looking to hire an architect for this first phase was really the qualifications of the team, their experience, comparable projects, ability to meet timelines, ability to satisfy the project we were looking for, and then also kind of some budgetary issues as well. It's a little hard to read there, but of the 4 proposals we got, there are the proposed fees. However, before we really dug into the fees, we did kind of a qualifications-based review, and we determined to interview WDM and Tesserae, so those top 2 that are listed there. The reason there's two prices for WDM is they actually offered 2 prices or 2 fees. The first fee of $92,000 was kind of what they would call their standard fee, essentially, and then they offered us a reduction of about $10,000 if some of the buildings were pre-engineered. So the holding building for the peccary and the holding building for the Mexican wolves, they're saying if we can reduce our engineering costs, we can pass that on to you. We thought that was a great idea. They interviewed extremely well. We're really impressed with WDM. Our second interview was with Tesserae. And because WDM kind of offered up that reduction in service and scope, we had that conversation with Tesserae. We're saying, hey, WDM was looking at doing pre-engineered. What does that do to your fee? Is that something you can consider? So just to make sure we were really comparing scopes. And so that's that negotiated fee of $102,400 is more in line with the $82,400 from WDM. That's why we have the 2 there, the 2 different prices. And then just based on the proposals, we just didn't feel that LK and Davidson submitted as strong of proposals. We are recommending WDM for a couple reasons, or several reasons. I also want to point out They have a really great team behind them. They're using engineering consultants for structural and landscape architecture, so they're here out of Hutchinson. And then electrical and mechanical basis engineering, a firm out of Wichita. I've had really great luck with them on other projects. Also, just since WDM up front found a way to save some money with their two budget, or their two options for the design fee, we thought they were already looking at ways to maximize the budget. They also demonstrated they have really good, successful projects that were large projects that had multiple habitats that were kind of extended over a space. And then the final piece was during their interview, it was very clear. They have a heart for small zoos. They have a heart for a zoo that's literally in their backyard. I mean, they work all over the country and even internationally. So they're really excited to work back here in Kansas. And we were really confident that they were going to deliver a project that's right for us and not what's right for, some other large zoo in another part of the country. So with that, it is our recommendation to proceed with WDM. You will notice the fee I bumped to $84,000. The difference there is reimbursable expenses. Every architect, every proposal had reimbursable expenses. So those are things like travel costs when they come down for meetings, very standard that they're in there. So that's the difference in the price. But it is our recommendation to move forward with WDM at that lower price using the pre-engineered structures for 2 of the 3. So that was pretty quick. So if you have any questions, I will stay.
Any questions or remarks from council? This was our first time seeing the full master plan, right?
No, it was presented back in July.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So we just wanted to give a quick update of the entire thing and then also focus a little bit on
Okay,
phase
because
1.
there were parts that were added. In July, you had a revision, right?
Yes.
And we presented that, didn't
This might be the first time.
I don't remember seeing some
okay,
of
so-
the housing and that.
Yeah, so it would have been the first time that when we added the lodging piece, yes, after we
Okay.
presented earlier in the year.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, the major changes then here from 2024 would be train loop addition and lodging.
Are we approving the money too at the same time here? In our paperwork, it doesn't have the money in here.
So this is just for the design services for it. The project itself was included, the construction was included in the 2026 CIP budget.
Okay.
So total cost was $995,000 or $992, somewhere in there, just under $1 million for the construction of this first phase.
I was just going back and looking at the CIP stuff and the maps and all of that. I know there are a couple different parts in the CIP that are with the zoo, but like with the parking lot is next year too, right?
This is the 925 zoo train improvements with exhibits portion. That's for
Correct.
2026.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's in the CIP, since we did do the late adjustment to the master plan, they don't quite line up. The first year does, but the years going out do not line up with that.
Okay.
Just because of the timing of when we had to approve our CIP versus when we made the adjustments. So
Okay.
we'll correct all that next year going into CIP.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
I move to approve design services for Zoo Phase 1 master plan and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
Magers?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Item 9B, consider water rights purchase contract with Sunoco.
Hello, Erin Patterson, Project Manager with the Utilities Group, and I'm here to walk you guys through the work that we've done over the last couple of months regarding the Sunoco water rights purchase. I know this isn't the first time you guys have been briefed on the Sunoco rights, but we're going to go through what we did for our due diligence. And then hopefully at the end you guys will sign. So there was a quite lengthy staff report that was included in your agenda packet for today. I have tried to condense it into 8 slides. We're just going to go over a summary of the water rights, the work that the city staff did as our due diligence, a brief update on some of the most recent state of Kansas water comments. There's some interesting things happening in the state, and then what our recommendation is. Okay, so in September, as you guys are aware, the city of Hutchinson and Sunoco reached a tentative agreement for the purchase of the Sunoco water rights. The value of that agreement purchase was $10 million for all of the Sunoco water rights. I think it's important to note on here, so Sunoco stopped operations in 2023, but prior to then, all of their water rights were fully perfected, and it's confirmed that it's 100% conversion. So when I talk about conversion, if we go from like an agricultural water right to a municipal water rights, they aren't going to convert 100%. But because of we're going from industrial to municipal, it's been confirmed that it'd be 100% conversion. And then just a bit of a summary on here. Ooh, sorry, that was loud. On the overall water rights quantities we're talking about here. So the city has, I'm going to speak in gallons per day. We've got water rights of about 9 million gallons per day that are perfected. And when I say perfected, that means that the city has used that much water previously, and it's been confirmed that, yes, we have the authority to consume that much water. The city has additional water rights that have been unperfected, so there are rights, but we actually haven't used that volume of water, so it's not finalized, if that makes sense. And we've got about not quite 2 million gallons per day of unperfected water rights, and those are good through 2030 something, 2035, I think. To give you an idea of the magnitude of the Sunoco water rights, they've got over 5 million gallons per day perfected. So, you know, that's more than 50% of the city's perfected water rights, and about 40% when we look at the total of the unperfected and perfected city rights. So this is a substantial water right value that we would be potentially adding to our municipal water rights. Okay, so we broke up our due diligence into a couple of different areas, and the first one we wanted to look at was the physical infrastructure, because in the initial discussions with Sunoco, it included their wells, the pumps, the well houses, and their distribution piping. We spoke with Kansas Department of Health and Environment, and when we talked to them, because we wanted to make sure they were on board with this, they very clearly spelled out to us that the Sunoco wells, because they were not constructed nor operated as a municipal water supply, would not be permittable, according to KDHE, for a municipal water supply. So at that point in time, we went back to Sunoco and said, listen, we aren't really interested in your infrastructure because it's actually a liability to the city, because then we have to go through, we've got to cap the wells, demolish everything. And at that point in time, they agreed, and they said, that's not a problem. And you can do that with water rights. You are not required to have the physical well to own the water rights. And a well is called a point of diversion. So we stopped investigations in the physical infrastructure because there was a bit of a moot point at that time. The next thing we did as part of our due diligence was to actually figure out what the water quality is. The city doesn't have wells in the area of the Sunoco water rights. They're farther to the east than we've got. So what we did is we tested 3 of the Sunoco wells, and then we also tested the irrigation wells for the hospital and also for the Trinity School. And when we did that testing, nothing stood out because we wanted to make sure that whatever this section of the aquifer was going to produce, we would be able to treat it with the water treatment center, and that there's nothing that would be damaging to our infrastructure system. And good news is they came back that we would be able to manage that. So they were all below drinking water standards, other than I think one of the wells had E. coli, but we treat for that anyways. High in alkalinity and sodium, not a surprise. We see that in a lot of our well field. Positive for PFAS and PFOS. Again, we have the RO system. As I spoke about last time, we have the ability to treat for those. And they were below the drinking water standards regardless. Any questions so far on this? Okay. And then the next part we did is we had to have those discussions with the regulatory authorities, right? Because there's no point in us buying the wells if any of the state guys are like, sorry, too bad. So we used Mr. David Barfield, and I want to just highlight David is amazing. He's a subject matter expert in water rights, specifically to Kansas. He worked for the Division of Water Resources for 35 years, and for 15 of those years, he was their chief engineer. So he probably wrote most of the policies that we're going to be working through and was responsible for managing of the water rights in the state. So we've actually been working with David for a couple of years now, but he took his work a step further now that we were serious about purchasing the Sunoco water rights, had further discussions with DWR, confirmed that yes, all their water rights are in good standing. They are expected to fully transfer when they convert, and that we can find new locations for those wells. Because we're not purchasing the Sunoco infrastructure, we have to drill new wells eventually, right, when the water's needed. We don't really like the location of the Sunoco wells regardless because they're to the east side of K61 compared to our water treatment center. We might have to cross over some rail, so we want to relocate them regardless. And we worked with David and DWR to confirm that within half mile of those current points of diversion, we would be able to find locations for those wells. Now, that's now in 2025. I will say in 2026, DWR is holding some public meetings that might tighten up the criteria for where you can put a new point of diversion or drill your well. David also looked at that for us. It's kind of like it's a very complicated Venn diagram, but even with the newly proposed regulations by DWR, we would still be able to find locations that we could put these wells. So at that point in time, it's just an engineering problem, but there are options. And then the other regulatory board that we spoke with, like I said, is Kansas Department of Health and Environment. No issues when we spoke with them other than, sorry, you guys can't use the Sunoco wells. And when we are ready to put in new wells, we just have to follow the municipal well construction and location criteria at the time of installation. Okay, title. Probably the part I am least familiar with, but to that point, the city did obtain outside legal counsel who were very proficient in water rights within the state of Kansas. They completed a stand-up title review of the Sunoco water rights. Their findings were in alignment with David's in that the title and the rights are in good standing. And Sunoco's actually providing us with a special warranty deed where they're guaranteeing that they actually do own the title to the water rights. It's not as like clear cut as when you buy a house, is the thing that I found going through this process. Okay, and so this is kind of the interesting one. State of Kansas water, right? I just wanted to highlight some of the work that's happening in municipalities in the state of Kansas at the moment because of water. In our changing climate conditions, water is becoming more and more of a crucial resource. So Wichita is doing two things. They're actually going to be looking to treat excess water from the Ark, and then they're going to be depositing that back into their section of the Equus Aquifer. And then additionally, they're getting ready to start up a pilot plant where it'll be treating the discharge from their wastewater to a potable water quality standard. And I did want to highlight, you know, if they were to put in a plant that would treat for 10 million gallons per day, it would cost them $500 million. So just want to give you guys a bit of context. You know, we're looking to buy not quite about 5 million gallons per day for 10 million versus 10 for 500. Garden City, they are working on reusing their treated wastewater for irrigation purposes. And then Hayes and Russell, they are in an interesting spot. In 1995, they purchased a ranch and the associated water rights over in Edwards County. And they are continuing to fight, and it's now moved to a federal court to actually be able to transfer the water from Edwards County to supply them. So they're looking at a 30-plus year effort on securing water rights. And then my favorite part, which I just found out about, Dodge City, they just purchased 2 irrigation wells, and the price tag was $3,750 per acre foot. They lose 10% of those water rights on conversion from agricultural to municipal. And if we were to pay that rate without discounting any loss on conversion, it would actually be about $22 million. Now, they're farther to the west. They're in a more arid area, but this very much lines up with the benchmarking when we looked at it. Recommendation. It's our recommendation that City Council proceeds with signing the contract so we can fully execute the contract with Sunoco for their water rights. Upon execution of the contract and all the monies have been paid, we will transfer the water rights with DWR into the city of Hutchinson. And then at that point in time, we are going to move those water rights into the conservation bank that DWR manages. It protects our water rights from any potential claims against non-use. And additionally, it gives the city the opportunity to try to perfect the water rights that we have, which are unperfected. And the way you perfect them is by using them. So if we build new houses, we get new businesses in, they all need more water, and then we start to realize our total water rights, perfected and unperfected, it perfects them, plus then we get to stack on the Sunoco water rights. And we can draw down as we need to. Let's say we get somebody who comes in, they're like, we need 4 million gallons of water a day. Great, we can withdraw a part of the water rights that are in the conservation bank. So it's not an all or nothing.
It's water rights savings account.
Basically. And DWR is very on board with the city of Hutchinson getting these rights and working with us on transferring them into our name and putting them into the conservation bank because they feel that it's good for the aquifer and for the region. And that's it.
I don't think people realize just how much water that is.
It's a lot.
It's more than filling up a 55-gallon jug, a 55-gallon oil can every second, every hour, every day, every week, every month.
Yeah.
It's a lot of water.
Yep.
Okay. I think you've left no stones unturned. I am amazed at what I learned doing this job and serving the city. I mean, I knew a little bit about water rights and about, perfection and all of those things you mentioned, but wow.
I will say, the folks that we used between David and then Tom Adrian for our legal counsel, these guys, I mean, they lived it. They worked for DWR. They are by far, they've forgotten more about water rights than I think I'll ever end up learning.
Well, I certainly think this purchase will set us up for whatever comes along.
That's the goal.
I don't have any other questions.
Neither do I.
Me neither.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this item? Looking for a motion?
I move to approve the Sunoco water rights purchase contract and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents in order to close the transaction.
A second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Oh, yeah.
Bass?
Yes.
Magers?
Yes.
Goss?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you, Aaron.
Item number 10, report of city officials.
John, do you want to go first or last?
It doesn't matter to me.
I guess this isn't really your last meeting, it's the
Correct.
next one. Garza, you're gonna go first.
I am? Why does that surprise me? Okay, I got a couple things to talk about I've been thinking. And Steve thinks he's got a lot on his mind. First of all, October 20th, I'm going to start my meetings again over there at the zoo. December 20th, thank you. December 20th. December 20th at 9 o'clock at the zoo, administration building. And in the park, I'll need everybody to come out. We got a lot to talk about. And come out and let's talk about the taxes, whatever you want to do. Be easy on Mr. Garza. He's getting older. So just be easy. Come on out, have some coffee and donuts with me. It's at 9 o'clock over there in the park at the zoo. It's right off the parking lot. So come on in there. We'll sit down and have some coffee, and we'll go over what's going on. So I want everybody to come out. Second thing I want to do is Mr. Truant. Mr. Truant, you've been sitting through all these things, every city council meeting. I think you're going to be a great addition to us. You hear, basically where we're at. So I do appreciate you coming to the meetings and doing like you're almost one of us, except you're sitting out there, you're not up here, and you will be. So there you go. So I appreciate you coming. Yep, I appreciate you coming to the meetings. You should fit right into here, and make sure you bring your sleeping cap because we do stay up. So, all right. And the last thing I want to say, taxpayers, listen to what Mr. Garza got to say. He's a 67-year-old man. If you have not listened to what the city of Hutch is taking care of you, you're taking care of your water rights for your future. But you need to take care of us. You need to think about this tax thing that's coming up. In order for us to keep going and building the city of Hutch, look at the thing that the zoo's doing. My God, you're living in a great city. But to have this great city, it takes money. And we're not asking you to pay 2 or 3% tax. We're asking you 3.75 cents. 3.75 cents. And Garza's a little tired, so I get mixed up. Excuse me. But I talk from the heart. We up here and spend our nights here, and we go to a lot of meetings, and help your commissioners not get bald, help us not get gray, help us out on this tax thing. Understand it. Come to my meeting so you get to understand it a little bit better. Other than that, that's all I got. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, John.
I would like to comment that I thought the efforts put forth for all the Christmas celebrations, including the parade, were fantastic. I think there's a lot of unsung effort that was put forth. I know a lot of city staff were involved in that, and that's appreciated. I think the attendance was great. I think the weather helped. From my vantage point, it was a full crowd. Chief Beer left, but I don't think he's still here. But the fire department, I appreciate their efforts on helping Santa Claus out, and also the other departments that showed up in the parade. It was fantastic. I hope everyone has a very Merry Christmas. Looks like the weather's not going to turn on us. It looks like it's going to be warm for the next 2 weeks. So, yeah, have a good holiday. That's all I got.
Ditto that. Merry Christmas. John, you've said some wise words over the years, but one of the things you said was Salina has highways, McPherson has electricity, and Hutchinson has water. So I think what we did tonight was very good. Thank you to the staff that works so hard all the time. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and Merry Christmas.
Ditto of a lot of those comments. I do want to thank all of my council members for, we don't have an easy job. We don't want to raise taxes. We want to make this community the best we want to have it, and we're working hard to do that. And it's not an easy job, and I welcome Mr. Truant to come join us soon so he can join in that fun task. I want to thank all the city staff. I see them out working everywhere, blowing out fire hydrants today. I don't even know what they were doing, but there was water going everywhere. So I just see them out there working, doing a great job for our city. And the Christmas parade, yeah, that weekend there was a lot of things going on. And all the community members that came out and participated and all that, I just want to say thank you. And that's all I have, and a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. One thing I don't think was mentioned on that last item, the Sunoco water rights, is that we did budget for this. This was included in the 2026 budget. So this is not an additional 10 million. This was included in, I think it was page 488 of the budget last year, of the proposed budget. So this isn't a net new expense. This is very much something that we planned for, and we've been working on it obviously for months.
3 years.
3 years of months.
No, I mean, it's split up over 3 years.
It is split up over 3 years, sorry. Yeah, the cost is split up over 3 years. And, yeah, so I just wanted to point that out, in case anybody had sticker shock. The information, like our one speaker tonight said, Mr. Colvin, when you dig into the tax question, the sales tax question, I think that's a deeply personal question for people to answer at the ballot box, of course. But I really encourage people to educate themselves not only on the process that we went through here tonight, but how it may or may not benefit them personally moving forward. Because when we're looking at raising 10 mills, or, banks and lending institutions, and FEMA requiring flood insurance on 40% of the city, and that never goes away. Or you can do things to make it go away that are also expensive. So we are trying to explore all paths forward, and I think that's been a concerted effort by all staff and council ever since we got the new draft maps. It has been a pleasure to serve as mayor, and yeah, looking forward to wrapping up the year. And Garza, I will be at your meeting on the 20th.
Good. So I'm not the only one they scream at.
Yep. Yep,
Okay,
exactly.
good.
And John will be there? No, just kidding. He's like, I'm done. Any remarks from Mr. Villegas?
Yeah, just a few. And partly why I don't usually talk a lot during my part is because we communicate so often anyway. But a few miscellaneous items. So to continue to build off of the work that we've done in building, in our building codes, one of the things that I have talked with Matt and Jason about is standing up like a building and zoning 101. And so I think that could help shore up some of the gap that we have. So say, for instance, if you're a homeowner and you want to refurbish your house, you don't know where to start. And so if you attend one of these classes, we can kind of teach you, okay, here's what that looks like, here's what this means. And the same thing would be applied to any zoning request. And I think part of the analysis, if you will, of where maybe issues are breaking down, because it seems like on the commercial side, we've seen a lot more success. But on the residential side or some smaller projects is where people feel like they're being dinged. But I think it's a lot to do with just the educational component of why it's being asked or why we're requiring something. And so hopefully doing a building and zoning codes 101 will help alleviate some of that stress. It's not going to be perfect, but it's at least a shot in a different direction. And another thing that I did want to point out, how frequently staff utilizes all of the existing boards and commissions that we do have. So for instance, the HRO has been very involved in the interview processes for the open positions that we have. We've heard from Friends of the Zoo. They're very engaged with the Zoo Master Plan. The Building and Trades Board have been advising Jason along the way with a lot of the changes we want to implement. That we're relying on the expertise and really the lived experience from those that are already serving our community. And so I share that to say that we don't make any of these decisions in a vacuum. Sometimes it may have that appearance, but we definitely rely on the expertise of the community at large. And I have been working and negotiating with the Public Arts and Design Council on a revised ordinance in support of the 1% towards arts for projects. Really, a lot of that has been tweaking some of the language. We've been engaging back and forth for several months now. Kind of just slipped through the cracks a little bit, but I do look forward to presenting that ordinance to you all. I would be making a recommendation in support of it. And I know for a lot of our friends that may see that as fluff, I really think taking an analysis or really a deep look on like the importance of art generally. So whenever I go to a community, the first thing is I get, oh, the architecture or any murals or anything that may stand out and catch your eye. And those types of things are important because they give the community identity. They give the community character. And so that was a lot of the subject discussions that I was having with the Public Arts and Design Councils to recognize and see that value. But in particular, we're trying to carve out language for, say, in a doomsday scenario, a project is overrun with change orders. You know, I was really kind of talking with them on if a project is increasing, that we would look at pulling from some of those art funds, so that way people can't say, oh, well, if you can pay for art, how can you not pay for this? And so that was really the thing we were talking about the most. And I think we found some language that can meet the middle ground so we both feel like we're being heard. And so anyway, at some point, probably in the next few council meetings, some members of the Public Arts and Design Council and I will make a presentation to you all to consider. And then to wrap this up, I do want to give a shout out to Avery Hoy on her recognition as being the youngest certified paramedic in the world. That's an incredible accomplishment. I think that she does represent the best of Hutchinson in that. And coincidentally, I did talk with several of her paramedic colleagues and just others that have had interaction with her, and they've all said that not only is she very smart, but she's also a very kind person as well. So anyway, big shout out to her, and that's all I have.
Thank you.
Can I say one more thing?
No.
Sure. I forgot, tomorrow night, our Blue Dragons are playing in Texas for another national championship football game. So I want to wish Coach Dallas and his staff and team good luck tomorrow night. Bring home another championship. That's all I got.
That'll be your first proclamation to read as
Perfect.
mayor next year.
I'll do it.
Looking for a motion.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you. A second.
Richardson?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
Best?
Yes.
Magers?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.